trade. So
Yeah.
you'll see the moment they realize, like, okay, nobody's getting out.
Second Rift Herald value, by the way.
Yeah.
Took out this bottom tier 1, and it does corral Fred Brion into this just kind of awful position. At least a couple of them do get away, but it was just a great game sense as well to just chase them for this long with Keria and Zeus kind of getting caught. They're like, well, we have to eventually try to turn this.
Ryze doesn't have that same long-term damage, even with the Ludens build we're seeing here. You know, we've seen so much tank Ryze that it's made our heads spin a little bit, but Morgan, will he get caught?
It's kind of been a little bit of a sad Gnar in this one, but he's going to get away.
Okay, Baron group up here for T1, but you do not have the control to be starting this one. They will be seen and pushed away.
Yeah, they're kind of leaving Guma and Owner out to dry. I mean, this is in Pelios with no flash, and Keria just gets out of there. He's like, nope, see you guys later. He's going to use his Devour onto Zeus, who gets incredibly low. Faker tries to make a play, but I mean, he's getting pretty low on that backline, and nobody's dying here on the side of Fred Brion. Look at the health bars. It doesn't matter, because 4 members at T1 go down, and Fred and Brion now are going to take the Baron.
I think Fred are now in full control of this game. It was still on a knife's edge after, Soul Point traded for team fight win, technically speaking, for T1, but T1 get greedy, start to group for a Baron, and it's crazy that one of the only teams that stops a T1 Baron group is Fred Brion.
Yeah.
They just say, no, I'm going to keep you on this. I'm going to rotate over. Like you said, Guma is left out to dry, has no summoners from that Realm Warp play from just before, so doesn't have flash here. Great play from Delight, comes in, bandage toss into Curse of the Sad Mummy, and that's a dead Aphelios. Now, Faker rotates over, but this fight is 100% winnable here for Fred Brion. They're fighting in a choke. They have this Gnar, and Faker coming in for this one. Yeah, you end up knocking Umpty in, but he's very tanky. Lava has his stopwatch. I don't think it was the correct play. I think T1 should have just cut their losses and backed away, because now it's Baron and Faker's down. 4 kills for Fred Brion, and they're in firm control. Soul is theirs too. This Baron gives them a 4-0 Drake Infernal Soul. How do you mess this one up now, Fred Brion? I don't think you can. Like, this is basically the game in the bag if you play it out correctly from here.
You were talking about that last hurrah. I mean, now it's their game, right? Look at the items. The Zhonya's is completed now for Lava. We have Morgan's got the most XP in the game. He's going to be split pushing at level 15. T1 are really going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to get this one.
Look at the wave stop. You can't push it.
What are you going to do now?
Oh, man. Fred Brion came so prepared for T1's game style here. I love this game from them. They're like, no, you think you could just cross-map us? Not without a minion wave.
I wish we saw that last highlight as well from like 3 or 4 seconds earlier, because it would have really highlighted just Keria saying, nope, I'm getting out of here, and not saving Guma. Fred Brion's comp can engage from screens away.
Yeah.
And now
Ryze is getting an inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, T1, they might be able to fight over this one because Ryze is getting the inhibitor.
He does not have his teleport active right now, is on exhaust.
Realm Warp available as see you later Faker, and now we're going to trade mid laners, as that is going to be Owner stealing the Drake. But what about this fight as it is 5v4 and a massive Curse of the Sad Mummy comes in. The follow-up a little bit lackluster here from Fred Brion, looking to bounce some of that damage as Umpty. He is
wants
Poppy.
to lock the door, but he doesn't have his ult.
Yeah, he's okay. They're going to teleport to the bot side, actually, and this is a massive wave, so should absolutely at least be this inhibitor, as T1 have to wrap all the way around.
They can't stop any backs, so there's no way Morgan could grab anything more, though, than the inhibitor. So, really nice defensive back off there from T1.
I feel like that's actually a big win for T1.
Yes, 100%, because they stifle the Soul. I think this was very greedy from Fred Brion, because they're both trying to win a Soul fight where they are ahead and they could win a 5v5, but they're doing it without Lava, who doesn't get inhibitor before this moment, right? So it's stolen away by Owner, and T1 win the subsequent fight. And yes, they do lose their inhibitor, but like, Zeus dies for it. And I think this is a one fight, though, for T1, because they get out of here. If they can't get out of here, then actually they just lose the game. So they sacrifice Zeus, which was a good turn by Fred Brion to punish him there, but you lose only an inhibitor, but T1 are like, oh, we just bought 5 minutes in this game with a better scaling pop, and we're going to actually get the fight on our terms.
Yeah, and if you consider the bot lane situation, right, the split pushing of the Gwen should win out in the 1v1. So they're actually mostly fine that the inhibitor is down. Yes, it is going to be some pressure But you can use that to just get your Gwen even more fed. The Gnar can't
look at
really
her,
1v1. Yeah, he's just going to push that. So he's not really losing much.
It's
he's actually
bounty.
getting more golds there. Now, Fred and Brian are doing a good job pushing this top side, but you just look at the timing of the inhibitor and the Baron. Yes, there is going to be about a minute 20 in between the inhibitor respawning and the Baron spawning here. But who's going to deal with Zeus?
Exactly.
I think Morgan's going to try, as the rest of his team is coming in. And actually, the Mega Gnar is pretty huge.
What?
He actually just got bodied.
He had stopwatch as well. Like, he could have played that one out, I think, a little bit more safely, but...
Well,
well,
I guess you can deal with the Gwen.
I guess you can if the Gwen is going to play it like that and to get the best top laner, right? But did kind of tunnel vision there on making sure he could grab that bounty. But everything you just said, which was all correct, now no longer as relevant, because I was going to mention that because Zeus gets this turret, the bounty, and has that wave pushed, by the time that bottom wave would have been a threat or an issue, it doesn't matter that there's actually an extra minute there because he pushed the wave so hard, which is exactly his plan, as we're going to watch this from Morgan's perspective here, the Lord. So very early, actually, use of the mist here from Gwen. So she's immune to guarantee the turret, but isn't there to actually block the damage from the Gnar. So
yeah, and I mean, consider the build here from Morgan as well. I mean, he's outputting a lot of damage, especially even cutting down on the healing with the chainsword. Like this Gwen, if he's not going to be attacking and dealing damage himself, then if Morgan even gets 5 seconds, then of course he's going to have a great time. So yeah, kind of just all-inning on that turret with Zeus. I think it's fine just because there was no objective. So Fred and Brian, they don't really get anything outside of that. Other than wit's end for Morgan. So now that side lane could be more of an issue.
Yeah, that's what I think they get out of it. I think that's what Fred and Brian really get out of this win and the kill there is actually now there's no one to deal with the wave. So T1 will not be there. Like we talked about the 2 minutes here or minute and a half inhibitor versus Baron spawner. Doesn't matter if Gwen gets away there and gets the turret and can continue to side lane. Because she's not there, matters a lot. Faker does have teleport at least. He's the one they've chosen to defend this. He's going to be able to clear this pretty quickly. But look at all the control Fred Brian is going to get here around Baron Vision in the interim. This is a Kalista with 3 items and a stopwatch looking for this fight, but she is basically a second smite here for the Baron.
And T1 have to force something here. It looks like Fred and Brian want to fight too, though, and obvious because they are ahead currently, and they do have this insane engage composition. So they're always hunting for mistakes. If anyone on the side of T1 steps out of line, they're ready to collapse and clap them. And speaking of which, Owner, getting kind of close to the sun, but it is just umpty there. If that was Delight, could have been a little bit more difficult for Xin Zhao.
The longer this goes on, the better for Fred Brian for taking this Baron than getting the soul, because Faker just teleported in, doesn't have that anymore. Someone has to defend. It's going to Zeus. He has TP, but there's no time.
Later. And that's the power of Poppy. See you later, enemy jungler.
This is why we saw the Morgana as a counter, you know, and I mean, one of many reasons, but now it's Baron plus soul, and Zeus dealt with the wave temporarily here. The inhibitor spawning in 30, but you just have to Hail Mary fight this T1. You're going to have to hope for the best. If you can't win this fight, I think the game is theirs.
They're giving it up. There's not much they can do. There's a wave collapsing on top. The inhibitor's still down, actually being much bigger of a problem than I even expected here. T1 really struggling under this pressure as Fred Brian just owning the map, and now this Rise is gigantic as he finishes his Rabadon's death.
Yeah, it's DPS Rise. That's the other thing. It's a machine gun Rise here, so it's not like the angle of scaling for the Azir just default wins. Actually, the Rise does so much, has CC and damage, does, you know, 2 things in a longer team fight better than the Azir does, the CC part, because the Azir has only got 1 big boom ultimate, but then isn't going to be able to offer anything else in longer fights, especially with the build here that Faker has chosen. Not going to be Leandri's, so, you know, I do want to say also in T1's defense, I think they have handled this super well. Like, if this was a chess game, Fred Brian has put T1 in check like 5 times, and T1 is still maneuvering to stay alive here. Yes, Zeus' death on the bottom side really hurt things for them, and now it's Soul. So things are worse than they've ever been. But T1 is still in this game, and all they need is 1 team fight right before Elder, and they could flip it on its head. But it's the Fred Brian Elder flip angle. So as a meme, it has been very good for them. Oh, man, that's so much control of the game right now. Still 80 seconds on Baron.
Morgan is just owning it, as maybe he went a little bit deep. No, he's totally fine. He's very fast in that mini Gnar. And he is just kiting it out perfectly, doing a fantastic job. And every single lane is being pushed. Top, mid, bot. Morgan hits Meganar. Owner's like, well, I got to try to do something. We can't just sit here and lose everything. As he comes in and will defend it for now.
And this is why I said I think T1 have to go for a Hail Mary, because otherwise they just lose their whole base to this push. And, you know, they just kind of sat back, waited, hoping for a mistake that Fredabreon has not given them. That's one inhibitor down. Lava's rotating over. We're looking for two.
Okay, that is massive. Aphelios damage does come in. A lot of low health bars. Zeus is considering going in. The needles are big. No steadfast presence is now Umpty. Being isolated, but they just back away and look at the base.
Look at Lava. He's pushing it. Morgan's got that second inhibitor down. And Lava's got Realm Warp. He can just get out of here.
Delight flashes in, and Carrion and everybody is just going super low here. They're just getting isolated by Umpty and Henna as Morgan gets low, but he already did his job. Look at the base. Everything's going down.
This has been such a beautiful macro game from Fredabreon against T1. Unbelievable.
Henna going forward. He's got a stopwatch. He knows he's totally fine. Carry a last-ditch effort, but Fredabreon are gonna dunk on T1 here in game number 1 and take down this Nexus with the 1-0.
And everything about T1's composition was stock, standard, and meta. This was not the fun game we saw from them when they countered the Seraphine last time around. No Yasuo, none of that. I think the craziest part of T1's draft was Guma playing the Aphelios, which was something that we talked about in the draft. It's his second time playing it this season. He's 0-2 on it now, and he was caught and punished by Fredabreon several times now. The second time he was caught on Baron, like you pointed out, he was kind of left out to dry. He was tricked by T1's intentions. Faker getting a little bit caught more than once this game, getting punished, and Fredabreon played their early game extremely well. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and every time they pulled Owner around the map, they made a play elsewhere. But it was at the end really just good macro games in the later parts of things that tripped T1 up.
Yeah, and Fredabreon were in this game from minute 1 as well. Really gotta hand it to them. A fantastic preparation and strategy to come into this series. Obviously, a lot of thought put into this one. Everybody had a way to engage, a way to be proactive and make plays, and a lot of weaker teams against T1 will just sit down and be like, well, it's T1, what are we gonna do? But Fredabreon have the exact opposite mentality. They come in and they're like, let's get him, you know? And that is really, really nice to see.
I feel like this was such a David and Goliath game where Fredabreon was like, just never going to give up, always going to play every fight as well as they could. They had the slingshot ready, man. They were so ready to take down T1 tonight. They came extremely prepared. They executed on what they prepared, minus some small errors on both sides here. They were the better team in game 1. Blue side draft, very strong. They used it well. Suddenly, this series is hype.
Yeah, all of a sudden, we'll see what T1 have, as no doubt they'll select blue side for game number 2. We'll see what they can prepare in this small moment up against Fredabreon, who are proving to be a bigger challenge than they expected. As guys, we are going to take a break and have the analyst carpet space. We'll be right back.
이거 아들아 잡았고 애들 탑 잼 대봐 여기 봐줘 그엔 노공이야 루아나
집 가서 텔 타고 올게.
오케이
탑으로 텔 타러 하나?
천천히 가보자 천천히 야 태훈이 밀었다 얘네.
캔치 노공이야.
야 그웬 노공이야. 조하나 초식이 잘 써봐.
천천히 해봐. 그웬.
오케이 그웬.
나이스 김모링. 나이스.
나이스요.
나이스요. 나 한 판 잘해보자. 이거거든요.
집중해서 잘해봅시다.
아니 미드 개망하면서 가는데 뭐야 바텀 안 먹어.
Don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Analyst Chairs and Collaborative Carpet Space. As Fred Brion manages to take down T1. It all started in the draft chronicler, but I just want to say that this is a +1 to the power of friendship that we thought may have evaporated this season.
I thought this was a great game. There's a lot to go into, so we'll go through the draft rather quickly, because if you look at these drafts, nameplate itself, obviously Fred Brion is expected to generate huge leads in the early game, way more skirmishing power, rise to punish side lanes, Gwen needs time, and bot lane is going to be super bullied. So overall, I really like the composition, very cohesive, goes in hard, which is the way that Fred Brion likes it. But given the nameplates, I think this is the type of comp where as a T1 fan you say, take it easy early game, and then in mid game, like use your superior mechanics, your team fight setups, and your macro to run it out. And for the first 20 minutes of the game, it looked like that was exactly the game that we were going to get.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think like you and I, just to go beyond the fourth wall for a second, we were looking at these drafts going, this is like exactly the right draft for Fred Brion in this moment. If this was Live Sandbox, we'd be like, game's over. Yeah. It's just over. But it was Fred Brion. And so therefore, we're like, T1 will probably win and they won't get punished for a more scaling draft.
And what I love is that this game, as we're going to see in the highlights, is a microcosm of both what makes Fred Brion good and what is one of the biggest weaknesses of T1.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's get into our first highlight here. I do need to say, these highlights are about a minute apart. First, we're going to see T1 demonstrate that it doesn't really matter what kind of drafts we have. They're just very good at navigating a lot of these skirmishes.
Because up until this point, Fred and Brion has actually been trading evenly. With this comp, that's a disaster. You can't trade evenly. And when then, at 20 minutes, sure, they pick up a Drake, but this fight happens, and T1 showcases that in longer fights, they are just better than Fred Brion. Like, that's just the reality of it. When it comes to individual execution, this team is just a step ahead. And with a comp like this, if you get a win 20 minutes in against a composition that doesn't really scale, you're feeling amazing, right? And this is the point where we said, okay, game might be over. I think T1 build up their gold lead here, and everything looks wonderful. You have a gold lead with a scaling comp against a team that basically needs to win in the early game. Big shutdown goes over to Gumayushi, and everything seems peachy.
Yeah, and there were multiple moments actually before this as well where it looked like Fred Brion was going to be able to create those advantages early, but T1 seemed to just always manage to trade evenly or up in those moments. And we're like, from this point, we're like, well, if Fred Brion's not going to be able to do anything, they're not going to be able to do anything. Let's get into our next highlight though and demonstrate that,
Because this is what has been one of the key weaknesses of T1, which is Guma is going to get caught here. And
I thought you were going to say the Baron pit.
Well, it is also. But like, Guma getting caught here is unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. Like, this is, again, Delight, just an incredible game on the Amumu.
Oh, yeah.
But this is unfortunate, but recoverable from. But then watch what happens here. Which is, they get out relatively, and then Faker goes back in. And this is what I think is T1's biggest weakness, which is, it's not Spring. You're not winning these fights that you don't need to take because you're right by the Baron pit. You got out, Owner's still alive, his smites are incredible. Just play it slow. Just back off. But no, instead they overforce, get aced at Baron, and from that point on the Fred Brion comp doesn't have as much of the issue of range because they can just walk over you.
Yeah, and they also managed to stack up those Drakes. They did at least utilize that early advantage to get a monopoly on Dragons. And as you can see, this was the moment we were talking about. T1 creating those advantages like we say.
With this
that fight at the Baron, it's over.
With this comp, like that's the whole thing. You have a comp that does so well if you just played a little bit more patience. They couldn't do it.
They couldn't. A little bit unfortunate. However, beautifully navigated by Fred Brion as well. We do need to say that even though their early game wasn't as aggressive as we really wanted it to be, they still managed to take the fights that they needed to. I think they just played too respectfully. But then, when they did get their advantage, they ticked all the boxes that they needed to, the textbook open on the table, and they were going through answering all the questions. 10 out of 10.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up still being a T1 win. As I said, I do think that T1 was in a major position to take this game. They can swap the blue side. Yeah. But I'm just happy to see Fred Brion be the old Fred Brion in Spring again. Yeah. Like, that's a really good development, I think. They look much more revitalized.
I also really love it when all of the Giga Chads that are in the chat that are there sarcastically then have to turn around and, you know, like there has to be like a Keck, wait, real Giga Chad, you know? Like, is that actually like the world that we're in right now? Because they did manage to win the game. Like a Keck, wait, real Giga Chad?
Fred Brian has become one of my favorite things just because it's so wholesome.
Yeah.
Everyone loves them.
The wholesome memes are my absolute favorite memes, so keep them coming, everyone. Let's get in, have a look at our POG for this one as well. It will be Delight! Not robbed this time around! Oh, Chronicler, beautiful work here. I thought the Lord might pick it up, but I think that Delight's play on this Amumu, starting from minute 1, was amazing.
I am extremely happy with this. Delight has, in my opinion, always been the best part of the Fred Brian bottom lane. His Rakan was one of the big reasons why they strung together a lot of wins previously. And I think that he played the Amumu with exactly the complete reckless abandon that you need. Finding so many key engages, a couple of flash Curse of the Sap mummies as well to set up fights really expertly. This one also just continuously actually using the double bandage toss and the Fate's Call also coming up huge.
Getting the stun and then immediately he was Fate's Cold and then was able to go back. Really beautiful play. 4 out of 13. I love this. This is how every Fred Brian vote should be. Because it's the power of friendship, you know? And so he is actually tied with Lava. It has to be broken by Chronicler. Chronicler is the man that decided that Delight was going to win. Oh, that's just hilariously adorable. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a best of 3, so T1 have a chance to fight back, and I think a lot of us believe they will. So let's head back to the casters here for game number 2.
Thank you, Spaceman, for that wonderful breakdown. And yes, Delight will pick it up. The power of friendship, all 5 members in it together. And yeah, I think that T1 a couple of times have come into matches and said, you're the better team. We'll play standard at first, and then we'll have some fun. But now it's all serious. Now it's time to really lay down the hammer.
I think there are a lot of things to discuss about that last game, and like, you know, the desk did a lot of it, we did a lot of it on the cast, but I think we still haven't even scratched the surface on the blue side angle, you know, how much this draft only really works like that on blue side, because you can use the power of that bottom side control. You're very strong rotations there from Fred Brian. I think they played a brilliant game, one of their best of the year. T1, though, now they have blue side. Rise is the POG vote I put down. I think T1 put the POG vote in that column as well, as they will just take that away here on blue side. Because the Rise was what allowed Fred Brian to kind of cheat the game when their scaling ran out, and they were still winning fights, so they were able to then control the map. The inhibitors were arguably the MVP for Fred Brian in that game. No longer going to be that issue that they will face, as we'll see the probably 3 Guma bans here. The Draven will be the last, you have to imagine, with the Lucian and the Zeri. And this means that Sylas is an opportunity here for Faker, because Sylas is on blue side, also not only a insane pick, but it guarantees you Gnar. So you're like, oh yeah, pick Gnar into this.
It's a very unique draft problem that I think just gives even more benefit to the blue side nowadays, just because both Sylas and Gnar are so strong in this meta. Yeah. And if you don't ban Sylas, then you get both. So red side has a big issue, but they would rather play into Sylas Gnar than Gumi Yusi's Draven. And I think that says a lot.
Now, Sylas has been picked as a counter pick, or we've seen it as a response to the Corki quite a bit, but I think that was really more just a symptom of the fact that Sylas was rising in prio rather than a real response to the Corki lane. So that's going to be picked up here for Lava. It's been his best champion this year, the one that he stayed on after everyone else said, I'm not interested in Corki anymore. He was long on it here. The Gnar comes with the Sylas, as we mentioned. It's obviously, it's like the Lucian Nami you get when you're on blue side. It's just one of those pairings you really struggle to ban out when there are other strong picks like the Zeri and the Lucian that have to be respected. So we'll see that one come through. Kind of a no-brainer here. The Aphelios will be, again, Guma's 3rd game on it. Hasn't been his most successful. Let's say he's now 0-2 on it, and there's a lot of variance, obviously, with a Poppy on the other side. Might get Dove. Kalista is banned, so they took away 2 of the best tools that Fred Brian had to snowball that lane. See what Fred Brian want to pick up here in this 3rd slot. Will just be the Jinx counter. Not going to be a hard smash the lane, get the same prio. Just have some extra range. And this comp is so good at poke so good at objective control in the neutral because they also have Poppy to try to bop Owner out. His Lee Sin is never going to be an option.
Otherwise known as Boppy.
Yes, otherwise known as Boppy.
Yes.
Aptly named.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. And now we are going to get another ban on Owner's Lee Sin, so he won't get to play that here once again. He had to go into the Xin Zhao, which he has looked good on in the past and has a incredible win rate on, but didn't end up doing all that much, I feel like, in that last game. And yes, there were a lot of game issues and stuff happening within that game that made that happen, but now a couple of bans towards Xin Zhao, as also the Tom Kent will be denied. Neither side will get that with their scaling AD carry.
See what Delight ends up playing here. I think that without knowing what T1's jungler is going to be, it's hard to pick something here. Yeah, I'd like to see this instead. Try to play the Gwen into the Gnar. So it's going to be that mirror that you mentioned. Zayas will play both sides of it this time around. And did play the early game very well last time. Didn't end up being enough, of course, as we're going to find out what that Keria pick is going to be. This is the most exciting part, because
Why is Owner smiling?
Thresh heavily contested here, because he's probably thinking about playing
Morgana?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Then I was going to the series saying, like, that's what I want to see from T1. I want to see the variance, or the versatility, rather, that Owner, we know he has, but he has refused to show us this season. It's like, okay, Xin Zhao, Viego, and the Lee Sin. Now he's looking for a Nocturne pick. Very greedy, I think, into this draft. Elise? Okay. And before he just locks in Xin Zhao, we shouldn't be excited about
Nocturne looks to be the pick. And there it is, locked in. And immediately we get Rakan here for Delight.
I think the Rakan pick is, you know, they're waiting for support last because they're like, okay, what are you going to pick to control bottom side? Do we want a defensive option here? Do we want a more aggressive option? Rakan kind of does somewhat of both, but if they had not picked Nautilus and had picked something like a Trundle, then something like Nautilus becomes insanely strong for Delight because he can, of course, stop that push in its tracks with his root. I will be, you know, honest, as we often are with these T1 series, you take the nameplates away. Not a big fan of this T1 draft, actually. I think it's very high variance, and Corki and Jinx, both champions that, you know, Nocturne would love to get on top of and delete. But we are going to see the stopwatch build from Corki later on. He will have package. He can actually pull the Nocturne away from T1 if he uses Valkyrie or package correctly when the ult is channeled. Yeah, obviously lights get turned off. It's very hard to coordinate that type of fight. But I think T1's comp is very risky here. And it comes at the cost of, I think, a lot of late game scaling with the draft they had chosen in terms of sustained damage. You're really just an Aphelios here versus Corki poke, Jinx poke here. It's all about that Nocturne R button and how much value it gets done. So this whole game is about Owner. That's why he was smiling.
Certainly a lot of range value here on the side of Fred Brion. And I think as long as they get through an early game against T1 in that laning phase, they should be in a good spot. But let's hop onto the Rift for game 2.
We have really just seen the tip of the iceberg, Valdez, of Guma, I think, and Owner in particular this season. Faker's played a ton of champions. He's played a lot of utility. He's played the scaling. He's played Lissandra. On the other side of the Rift, Keria has played the most champions on this team at 16. He's played this season. I'm like checking to make sure he's played Nautilus because you never know. Yeah, no, he's played it. He has played it twice. Only twice because he's played 16 champions. But I think that for me, what I really wanted to see most of all was, can Guma play Aphelios? I didn't think we'd see that today. Didn't think that was going to happen. Fred Brion took away his other power picks. And then will we see Owner on something else like a Morgana? Didn't expect the Nocturne, but we are going to see a different side of him today. He's not just going to play those 3 power picks we've seen all season long that he is dominated so hard with. We'll see a different look, and I think even for T1 fans who are somewhat apprehensive about the 0-1 start here, you're at least going to be excited to see a different look. Owner's going to play this super hype champion, and let's see how he performs.
Well, first we are going to see a pause, and we are looking at the runes here. Actually, known as Strong is. It looks like he's cycling through to find one that perhaps might be an issue. Didn't notice any of them out of the 3 that we saw.
Yeah, I didn't.
Maybe the Nautilus didn't pick up Demolish. And I believe I am correct.
Yep,
wow.
you are right. Well, at least we know it's Couriers.
There you go.
But
yeah.
probably that's the one.
We did have that yesterday.
All right, can we talk?
Stick with us, guys.
This pause should not have happened had we checked the runes in the fountain. But we are going to, as nothing has really significantly happened here, review things and see what occurs now.
Ariel looks pissed. He looks really angry.
I just don't know how many times we could talk about the runes anymore, because it is not an official rule, but it's become an unspoken policy in order to make sure the games run smoothly. Check your runes immediately upon entering the rift, so that if we need to regame, it will be done before anyone leaves the fountain. It seems that has not occurred this time around, Valdez.
Yeah, I was watching the LEC last night. I believe they had it in one of their games, unfortunately. So
I've really been enjoying watching the LEC this season. I did not, unfortunately, catch last night's games, but I'll be watching tonight.
Yeah, LEC generally for us is like, what, 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., so
yeah. It's kind of like
can be difficult sometimes.
It's the doom hours, but it is just one of those things where if I'm going to be up late, I'm definitely just going to be watching LEC.
Yeah.
I often get sad because I forget the schedule, and I'm like, I'll just turn on LEC. It's like, oh, not until tomorrow. I'm like, no! I can't sleep tonight.
Yeah.
I need my Medi-Vedi. Can't fall asleep.
By the way, it looks like Henna had like his wisdom teeth pulled or something. He's got some significant swelling. Hopefully he's feeling okay.
I was wondering about that.
Looking a little bit tender. Not very enjoyable to have your wisdom teeth pulled, as Guma's like, can I have my mic adjusted 2 degrees to the left, please?
Yeah, that was kind of odd. He immediately touches it himself as well after it was moved.
It's like, yes, that's perfect. She came down from Kangwon-do.
Yeah.
Kangwon-do is island. I believe it is to the west.
Yeah, it's an island, but it's not like a traditional island you guys would think is, oopsie daisy. Oh, there we go. Oh, Sungmin, when are you going to get your ticket?
Oh, I'm lonely. She says, come on, Sungmin, get it together. Get the ticket.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the island, it's like it's not like an island like Jeju where it's very far away. It's very close, but is still surrounded by a body of bodies of water.
It's not an island.
It's not an island.
Thank you, G-Sun.
But isn't it like technically because of the rivers? Oh, G-Sun's giving us the geography lesson.
It sounds similar to the Western Island, but actually it's a location on the east.
Yeah.
Now me and Wolf look silly.
Yeah, we just misread, I guess. I feel really embarrassed when this happens because there's definitely a fan from that region watching us now, being like, "Really, guys? How long have you lived here?"
I'm just happy to get the truth out there, even if it makes us look a little bit silly. Can win from Texas. Welcome.
Welcome. Coming from far away, but also having the lava sign there. So
#1 Texas fan.
Bit of mixed signals.
Texas is a big place. I don't know. Like, did he enter the fan contest that was in Texas? How did he prove that he was #1?
Yeah, that's true. It's got quite a large population, in fact.
Yeah.
Very diverse population as well. I've been to Texas only twice, but I enjoyed it a lot both times.
I've never been to Texas, actually. It's one of the places in America specifically that I absolutely want to go to.
They say everything is bigger in Texas?
Yeah.
When I got off the plane, I was like, yep. I was on the highway, I was driving around, I was like, yep. Definitely true. Another Morgan fan. There's so many Morgan fans in the audience this evening.
There's a bag there that says, hey, Neo, let's chillax. I don't think she watched The Matrix.
No.
I don't think she gets it.
I watched Mystic River last night, which is
man.
why I couldn't sleep, which is why I should have watched the LEC.
You shouldn't have watched that before bed, man. That's a bit of a...
It was a fantastic movie, though.
Yeah, it's awesome. I watched it recently, too. I think on the plane back from MSI, actually. Back from Berlin.
Yeah.
Awesome movie.
Very, very good. Very good. It's star-studded lineup of actors.
Yes. Very dark, but still very good.
Jisun is also reminding us. Yes, that's what that says. Jisun is reminding us that Gangwon-do is where we are doing the LCK finals.
And it's where the Winter Olympics were held.
Jisun just give us more geography lessons. I mean,
it's very helpful. I love it.
All right, this is like a coding joke. Is that constants? I don't actually know anything about coding, so.
I know nothing. I did learn some a little bit.
Lost 17 kilograms while coming to LCK, and base is like LCK. Observing the LCK is good for your diet, I guess, is what the idea for that sign was.
Yeah, you know, a lot of late nights. You gotta perhaps take that walk home, you know. And so this is a play on Henna's name, which apparently stands for Hate Night.
Yeah.
In Korean, it's Hate Night, which, you know, you take the first syllable of each, it's he, and then na, so henna.
And like, not like something hateful happened at night, but he just hates nighttime.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a longer anecdote there.
Yeah, and yesterday I was talking with the Chronicler about this with words that mean two things, but palm actually is not only night, but also chestnut.
You guys mentioned yesterday that Bae is like the word for a boat or a ship, but also pear. But you guys didn't mention it's also the word for stomach. You guys didn't hit the full trifecta.
I can't believe I forgot that.
It's also a very common last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Aria's 900th debut.
Future congratulations. Because it is on the 25th, and today is the 23rd. So on Monday. By the way, the reason his name is Hate Night is because he couldn't play League late at night from home. So, you know, to all the parents out there, you can still restrict your kids' playtime, and they still could become a pro gamer.
Wow, all the kids are going to hate you
I
now.
know. Sorry, guys. Yep.
Yeah.
It was like a father-son duo or, you know, any kind of duo watching together, and I'm like, oh, man. Sorry, buddy.
Don't worry, kids at home. You got your whole life ahead of you. Even if mom doesn't let you play League now, one day you'll make your own choices as an adult. Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh, it's because I think the sign is designated towards that person over there. Maybe. It says Tosarimia. I don't know. I don't think so. Actually, after reading the sign,
it looks like
it was just a camera zoom.
What is that?
Zeus. Us.
Yes, but
it's a monkey-looking like Zeus, the god, right? Like, which is what Zeus is named after. He just pronounced differently in Korea. And we also had a KT roster support called Zeus, which is why we call him Zeus. We get this question a lot. Please stop asking. Just live with it, okay? The other casters, when they play at Worlds, etc., like won't say his name right, but that's fine. It's okay. There's multiple pronunciations. Some people still can't say Dom1 right, but you know we're not here to call everybody out.
Good.
It's all good.
Some of the more European-sounding names in the LEC I have trouble with as well.
We definitely do.
Know? Some of the other IDs, it is just the way it is. We're all learning from each other. It's a very cool thing.
So if you're just tuning in, Korea had the rune bug occur to him, and as a result, at 90 seconds in, we had a pause, and now we are back in the game.
The game was resumed, and it is recognized as a record game?
Yeah, so what this means is, for those who watched the last time this happened with Gumayusi in particular, where his runes were also incorrect because he took magical footwear, because things occurred in the game, like players seeing each other or seeing each other's items. Basically, if any event occurs, it becomes a recorded game, essentially, or a record game, as it's technically called, which means that you cannot, unless an extreme issue occurs, it cannot be remade. So, because he did not check his runes at the beginning, basically, he doesn't get new runes. That is the result. As if I understand this correctly, there was no remake. This is the original game. And if he had just checked his runes before they left the fountain, before anyone had seen each other, then he would have had another chance.
Yeah.
And I hope that players just are a little bit more diligent about this. It sucks because you shouldn't have to be able to check your own runes, but it's a bug, and until it's fixed, It's just how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. The one thing I will say is that everybody's just trying to focus, and you'll note that, I mean, he wanted to take something else. And
Demolish on null is not exactly what you usually want.
yeah, so like you were saying, you know, if he had only checked his runes, but like, you know, nobody really wants to focus on the runes. They all want to focus on the game. They expect that the runes that they chose happened, but because of this issue that is currently happening, everybody kind of has to deal with it. So
yeah, it's kind of an unofficial rule, like please check your runes, and because it is a record game. I don't know what happened before, but a lot of people saw each other. Like we were 90 seconds in. It's pretty unusual for 90 seconds into it for a game not to be a record game, which is how the rule states. So unfortunately, he's just going to have to live with the Demolish. Maybe if they end up winning lane super hard.
well, he doesn't have the Demolish.
Oh, did he not?
Maybe
Okay.
he wanted to take the Demolish.
Oh, okay. I thought he did have it. Sorry, my bad.
He has like the extra shield, the extra damage when you have a shield, which,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
he is Nautilus, so I mean,
It's not that bad.
and maybe he wanted to change something else. I don't know if it is Demolish, just a suggestion. But either way, little cheeky gank here, cheeky visit to the top side doesn't really do much. Morgan took a tiny bit of damage, and now Umpty is following up here. And the less that top ganks get expected, the more value that they get.
I mean, Zeus already used his teleport, so this is a great opportunity.
Oh, man. Fantastically baited here by Morgan as he's in his shroud. Gets very close to the sun. Zeus tries, and he will be able to trade it back just barely.
That is super important that he gets that kill there, because without that, this is a great exchange here. Still is going to be pretty nice, of course, for Morgan here on the top side. A lot of minions are going to be deleted. Zeus does not have teleport. Just bought a call because he knows that is how this game is going to be now because of this death. At least he's just barely able to, with a really nice flash play, make that happen. But now without his flash, he's somewhat more vulnerable because Ghost is going to come up here faster for Morgan. So a lot on the mind is more, or Lava, rather. I'll have to Valkyrie away.
Yeah. Saw the Nautilus Keria here on a ward, so totally fine. Even almost just baiting out the aggression, but he had Valkyrie.
Another thing here too, Valdez, is the gold trade is a huge trade up because it's first blood plus assist gold going over to Umpty. That's why you see Fred Brion holding now a 600 gold lead.
Yeah, and take a look at the CS. The teleport difference actually makes a big one as well, because Zeus tried to teleport back to make the play with the gank when Owner was up at the top side, so yeah, definitely a nice chunk of gold there to Fred Brion to start off this game, and that's exactly what you want if you are Fredit. They have a comp that can scale really well, so if you can get ahead as well, it's going to be just double the bonus.
So this is going to be, from Morgan's perspective, selling the trade here, trying to set up the hyper proc. He's like, I'm going. He's like, let's go, let's look for it. And Zeus gets his Meganar. He has the stacked Q here. Really nice flash play here to actually hit the Q. Just barely enough damage from Zeus. I think arguably worth that flash, to be honest. I think it was the right move here for Zeus. If he doesn't get the kill, it feels terrible, but I think it was worth the risk. It pays off.
Yeah. Little Gnar play. Morgan did the same in game number 1.
Yeah, the mirror just really feels like it's a true reflection of the game in a lot of ways.
It's pretty interesting to see a bottom lane like this because, of course, in this meta, as we were highlighting so many times, there's always so much focus to the bottom lane, but not necessarily in this one. I feel like surely Guma and Keria can get very aggressive, but don't necessarily have to look for dives onto Jinx Rakan just yet, so Owner up here again.
Morgan's just being so respectful, though.
Level 6 is hit as the mist is down. Waiting for the Meganar, perhaps the lane is pushing away from Morgan as this is a very tricky maneuver. As just going to get that fear down. Of course, there is no flash here for the Gwen as Meganar waiting for it. The paranoia is going to be enough. Zeus taking up the shots, and he will be able to survive.
That was so beautifully done. Owner almost actually dies to the turret there. Zeus tanks it up there. Perfectly done to juggle that aggro back onto himself so they can grab the kill using the Nocturne ultimate, the paranoia. That was such a beautifully orchestrated dive. Waits for the wave to come back as well so that Morgan's in range. They know he doesn't have Ghost. That was very well played. So suddenly, top side here definitely swinging back into control for Zeus in this early part of the matchup. And picking up that kill is pretty massive in terms of what it's going to do to CS. It's going to be a low CS lane with all these deaths, 3 in the early game. But yeah, like you said, the reason why we see no focus on the bottom side is because it is a Jinx Aphelios where we saw no focus in the past. But with this, awkward lane swap here, see if this works out. Because Gumayusi has Crescendo. So he's looking for a lot of plate value here, knowing Morgan was just killed. He's got this wave here. This is the trade-off, though, because Jinx is also going to be happy with this.
Saves, he's almost at Megalon. The knock-up is not there, but it doesn't matter because Umpty is here. So with Morgan alone, 1v2, he's fine. He almost has his needles. He has Ghost. There's no gank. Owner's doing Rift Herald. So actually, Fred and Brion are going to get a lot out of this because it's a free turret and a bunch of plates for solo Jinx, who is getting solo XP and solo gold on all of these plates.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Lava is going to have to Valkyrie away. See if they can force this into value regardless. Like, it is going to be split gold as well, some of it. Keria walks away to see if he can give him that extra full plate, but Henna is going to be the real winner of this. It felt very experimental, what T1 were trying to do here. Like, oh, does this work if we swap the Aphelios early? Usually you have to have control of one of these lanes massively in order to pull it off. They do have enough control to send him up there of the top side with that kill, and they have Rift Herald. So it will actually be all of these plates going over to Guma. Is going to pick up first turret blood as well. So it does end up being worth it in the long run here, but still not a massive upswing from T1 because of the plates that Henna picked up bottom side.
Yeah, let's see if T1 doesn't look like they're going to be able to push into the second turret, but yeah, Rift Herald's going over there. Fred up Brion on the other side of the map earlier on with the gank from Owner in the top side. They were able to pick up a very early Drake. So that is what objective they did get on the opposite side here. And yeah, a lot of that gold split for the top side for the Aphelios, but still the first blood on the turret is going to be nice. As this is the gank onto Morgan.
Yep. The juggle here is brilliant as well. Zeus getting the aggro there as he walks out of it for just a second. Without that, it's a kill traded back for sure. As this is just a really nice follow-up dive. They CC him to death before that Gnar bar is ready. Very close to him being able to defend that. So if he defends that, survives there, maybe trades it back, and they get that top crash with the Rift Herald, it's a massive win for T1. It's still a pretty significant win for T1, I would say, at the end of the day here, as Faker's rotating up. Ping's coming into the mid lane. Lava says he's not here.
Yeah, it's the bully Morgan game, I suppose, as Ghost was popped, but the slow comes in, and Morgan cannot get away from this. Nice try. Doesn't even bother using his own needles. Just accepts that a nice roam from Faker is going to get the job done.
You know what's so cool about this game from T1 is that they banned away Henna's Kalista, right? And they were like, okay, we're going to play around bottom side control if he doesn't end up getting that one. But then Guma loses his Draven. And T1 just decided with this Aphelios pick here on blue side, with the Gnar they have, they're going to play around top. They're going to play around Zeus. No team is doing that right now. And T1 are like, let's go back to last year LCK. Let's go back to spring season a little bit. Let's play around, the best top laner in the LCK instead of playing around bottom 2v2. And we'll just let that Aphelios Jinx kind of sit down there. When Henna locks that one in, you feel pretty good about this strategy of just committing hard to top. Your opponent has Morgan on the top side, who's been a very inconsistent up and down player. Had a pretty decent game last time around, but so many resources have been committed to getting Zeus ahead here. So shutting down the Gwen's potential side lane power later on has been pretty massive. But it's also using the top lane to get Aphelios ahead, Put him up there. Like, T1's strategy here has been quite unique in that it's a different approach to using your strongest player to actually get value for your bottom laner.
As we have an engage down to the bottom side, Guma just going to get blown up here with the Ignite going down from Delight. Owner trying to follow up, but here's Umpty as well. Bit of a knock up onto Keria. Might be a couple of kills. He's getting extremely low, but the shield does come in last second. And with Owner nearby, of course, no chance of diving a turret. And now we have a Jinx with Kraken Slayer, a finished call, basically, and 2 kills and extra plates.
Yeah.
So all of this...
So they were
T1 are getting big map plays, but this is a bigger Jinx.
Yeah, exactly. So everything that T1 did to get a slight lead for Guma is now just erased, basically. That small lead they had is now transferred over to Henna with that extra kill going into his pocket. As Owner does have his Paranoia available, but just doesn't have enough vision to try to engage. They don't know where Lava is. He has package. This should be Frederick Brion with a 2 Drake lead. And I didn't think what this second game was going to be about was T1 just trying to really hard force a different way to get their bottom laner ahead, and then it all just gets thrown in the wastebasket when the bottom 2v2 steps forward. But that is kind of where we are now. Frederick Brion with this tempo advantage is going to grab that. As we're going to go back to this bottom side play because we kind of missed the beginning of it. Oh man, he just walks into chompers.
I mean, it was just excellently played from Henna. I mean, the timing was just so unexpected.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like never really a time. It's like he read that Aphelios is going to move forward to try to get damage on the turret, and Henna's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, it was well played by Henna, but it was also extremely greedy to be that far forward at this stage, especially because even without those chompers, Umpty was coming down for a gank. So you have to be, you know, aware of this. I don't think this is the reason why that bottom side happened, but nice try, production. But Carrier is one of the 7.
Carrier's on the list. Ooh.
Yeah, he is one of the 7 losses in a row that Nautilus is suffering.
Yeah, I think Nautilus is okay. It certainly has. It's not like the insane prio that it had before in spring or anything like that. It's okay. Other, you know, even Enchanter supports entered the meta as the entire bot meta totally changed over the course of all of summer. I feel like it's changed 4 or 5 times over the course of just 6 weeks. So, of course, Nautilus and other, you know, just tank engage supports are going to fall off as things change up.
Look at the respect that Henna shows that Guma and Carrier did not, you know, essentially here. Obviously, this is a little bit more extreme, but Henna's willing to lose money and lose experience. He knows this is the setup. Now, Delight.
Come on. He took every precaution, and they just waited for about a million League of Legends seconds. And, yeah, actually it does pay off for T1 in the end.
Yeah, well, Delight also pathing that way means that he's going to do something.
Okay, Needles landing, flash, chilling smite. We got fights in mid as well. Here comes Delight looking for the play. That is going to be a dead Faker. As Zeus will get away, just barely. And now Guma is actually able to pick up a lot of golds here in the trade at least, but Brion getting the second Rift Herald is also big.
Yeah, this is the moment where I want to see the gold lead graph, actually. Like, it's so extremely important right now because I want to see where the money is on T1 because they have 1,000 gold to lead. I think most of it's actually on Guma. Despite the 2 kills for Henna, he picks up 1, gets all of those plates topside, that extra turret, now has all the bottom side plates. And for Frederick Brion, it's the Corki angle that you really have to be worried about here as T1 is when Delight comes down, you're like this. That's like the moment where one of them dies no matter what. So I think Delight definitely could have taken a safer path there, or maybe there was not enough communication from Henna. This is on Faker because he actually engages into this with his chains, and then it actually gets into range here of Delight and flashes for the charm. So this is Faker being greedy, looking for an aggressive trade, which in isolation is correct, but he doesn't have the information that Delight's nearby.
If it's 1v1, it's totally fine, as you're saying, but sometimes that recon can be very slippery, can come from many screens away.
I think he just expected Delight is backing there because Henna died, they're losing turret, and instead Delight goes for a roam mid.
Yep, nice timing from Delight. Really just up to him to make that play happen. As Corki not really going to have the kill pressure at this point in time. Does look like he is going to go the Ravenous Hydra build, by the way, so is mixing it up, not doing the rush of the 3 items into Stopwatch and GA, and then essentially just going all in with packages and doing a ton of damage and all that good stuff, as we know. So a little bit more consistent, a little bit more wave cleary, and yeah, can do obviously some huge damage in the team fights anyway.
I'm not sure how I feel about it because I think the wave clear is obviously going to be massive for them when they're playing more defensively, as they have been around this Nocturne, but the extra survivability the Stopwatch could have had on Soul Point fight coming up here soon, or potentially even that Soul fight, is going to be pretty significant.
Okay, that is the flash down here.
Another chomper hit from Henna onto a Nocturne.
That one a little bit, a little bit more obvious, but that's heal and flash actually. So Henna really kind of panicking. He's like, no, please no.
Right before the Drake as well, you know, like the timing of this is massive because Owner, 40 seconds to go, is going to be close to his ultimate when this happens. And Frederick Brion might have to give this one up, honestly. Without those summoners, that is a big problem. I mean, Corki doesn't have Stopwatch either. Like, your 2 main carries in this fight, you have no package. I just don't think this is a realistic fight to take. I think it was a really nice proactive play from Owner and is extremely going to pay off as T1 are sitting on all summoners right now outside of Zeus' flash. And they have the faster group up here. I just don't think this is realistic for Brion.
Yeah. I love the builds here from Guma, by the way. The Bloodthirster is going to give you that shield, obviously, but also a ton of lifesteal. So you can survive against all of Poke, even regardless of the Drakes and the Ocean Soul and all that stuff. Like, he is going to survive a lot better against this. There's not too much tankiness outside of the Poppy as well, and I suppose the Gwen with all those resistances. So.
They left Owner here by himself, though, and this is a kind of split fight. I thought maybe we'd see Brion commit. Still, though, just looking for the wave and the second Herald drop mid to grab that turret instead. I think this is the better call. They have a nice setup here to prevent T1 from turning and trapping them, so they will guarantee the charge.
Yeah, charge comes in. Let's see if they do commit to this, as a bunch of poke damage does come in. The Poppy ultimate not amounting to too much from the side of Faker. That is better Poppy, as I like to call it. Sometimes worse Poppy, depending on how the ults go. But yeah, just a nice little trade. And actually, Brion do not get the turret. So a lot of that gold still left on the map here for their side. Mega Gnar trying to get something done here. Zeus going very low for this. And not really doing much.
Yeah, also his Narbar expires here, so won't be able to push the issue any further. Actually kind of an awkward trade because it gives Morgan a lot of power here on the side lane at this moment in time. And yes, we'll be able to grab this Gromp to get a little bit more healing. That's pretty significant. I thought that last exchange of play, though, was really nice for Brion because if T1 are even a little bit slow, you get the turret. They did not. But it's way better than actually forcing a fight here where your comp is not fully online. You went for the Ravenous Hydra. You don't have a stopwatch. You didn't have a package there. And last game, Drakes were super important because it was Infernal Soul. This time you have a 2-Drake lead with your Corki, and it's Ocean Soul. It's a single Ocean Drake going over to T1. Just look for a mid-turret, and if you don't get it, it's still okay. Like, T1 didn't really gain anything from this. That's why they were trying to so desperately punish and force that fight around Brion there mid. That's why Zeus was trying to get a blue buff. They're like, oh, just the Drake is not enough. We want to get something. And Brion just kind of sit back and scale. I thought it was the right move, and it's going to pay off potentially here.
It's kind of funny how everybody now collectively is just like, yeah, Ocean Drake is nothing. we don't really care about it. The Soul is like, you know, could be nice for T1 against this comp, especially with the Jinx Corki. You know, that's very obvious and all, but I think everybody on the Rift would have rathered something else. But it's not going to be the case here. No Hex Tech, no Mountain would have been hugely beneficial to both sides, both of those Souls. Not going to happen. And so we'll see just how long it takes. I feel like at the end of the day, even though, you know, Brion with their Drake lead, they would have really liked to have a better Drake Soul that they could have potentially snowball it into. I think they're fine because now they don't have to fight over Drakes. Well, yeah, you know, if they're giving away 3 Mountain Drakes, they're like, oh crap, like our Corki's going to lose a lot of value. But if they give away 3 Oceans, it's like, yeah, it's not great. But then it's 35 minutes into the game and they have Corki Jinx.
Exactly, and we've seen the Mountain actually be the one so much against the Corki. It's actually been kind of crazy how many unlucky Corkis we've had where we've seen the Mountain Drakes be the real game changer. But the Ocean is significant against Poke, but I mean, if T1 have the time to get 4 of those this game, then something else has gone wrong for Brion.
Well, then you've got a 40-minute Corki and Jinx.
Yeah.
And yes, T1 do have some scaling too, but we've seen what late-game Corki especially can do. And even Jinx yesterday.
Yeah, I just was going to mention the Owner has Stopwatch here, does have Stridebreaker available. Like, this is a very strong moment here in this neutral where if Brion try to push the issue here, they can be punished because Corki, he's got Flash, but no package. We'll have to rely on his Valkyrie.
We're K-ramming a bit.
Yeah, I like how T1, though, are trying to push a little bit of K-ram around this turret because the turret is actually what allows Lava to play the game. Like, so it's so important because he can just kind of be over here and be like, well, you can't ult me here, but if there's no turret, Owner says, yes, I can actually ult you, and you don't have Stopwatch, and I'm very aware of this. So
yeah,
this turret is really important for Brion to defend, but it's also very important for T1 to take, and that's why for a little bit of time there, there's a little bit of a tug of war around that. And now we're going to go do some side laning. As Lava's like, well, this turret is also one I can farm under.
I like that you mention it, especially because it's Nocturne. Much like Zoe, you just want to deny vision and look for angles. A little bit different because obviously Nocturne is all in, whereas Zoe is more poke oriented, but it's a similar idea where if there is no mid turret, then you can go for Paranoias. If there's no top side turret, if you're denying vision, then that Nocturne gains a lot of value.
And T1
it's going to be very nice for him. Other than that, I mean, he's kind of just hanging around.
Yeah, and T1 want more than just crashing waves into this turret, because that's not going to kill it. I mean, it will in a million years, but right now, Fred and Brian are happy to be like, yeah, you keep pushing these waves and we keep catching them, we keep farming. Corki's on top side. He's got teleport and package available. This is going to be a very different fight than the last one. T1, ooh, that hook goes wide. T1 here, definitely not the same cushy setup that they had last time around. This time, Fred and Brian have all the tools. Stopwatch purchased for Lava. Package, doesn't even need to teleport here. This is the fight Fred and Brian absolutely want to take. They're saying, we're ready to fight. We've scaled up enough. We want to take that soul point.
We got Corki up against worst Corki, I would say, in this case. Faker's missiles not necessarily doing as much as Lava's at this point in time. Lava's build, still waiting for that as the engage comes in. They're going onto a Nautilus with stopwatch. That's not the play. The paranoia is forced, but now you're popping a little bit less tanky. You have a little bit less positioning as the package comes through. They engage onto this very hard as into the backline here goes this frontline for Owner, but look at Guma. He has so much of a frontline and he can do whatever they want because Fred and Brian went so deep with that package and forced this with the Corki Jinx. And now Umti's going to try to give himself up, but this is just a clean ace for T1.
Feels like we might be going to a game 3 here, Valdez. This is the fight that really breaks the back in a lot of ways of Fred and Brian. Stopwatch down here, package useless. T1 have gotten Drake parity. This should be a Baron they take after this as well, so full map control. No longer safe to side lane will be the Corki. He's not going to be able to side lane. He's not going to be able to free farm. And the fight, despite the really big tunnel onto Keria here, looked almost still winnable for Fred and Brian, but like you said, Guma could just run at them. He was in melee range of their comp, knowing that he has that Bloodthirster, he's got that extra shield, or the extra healing, and a shield. And yeah, nice try. But the fact of the matter is, he's just unkillable while everyone else is that low on health. He would actually just wipe them, so they kind of have to slowly kite away. And the fact is, Umti flashed for the play, doesn't have a defensive flash anymore, and loses, like you said, 2/3 of his health bar. There is no tank anymore. And the package, unfortunately, isn't really that good. It divides T1 briefly. But watch this again. So Keria has stopwatch. That's the key moment. They have to disengage. Forced. They have to disengage during paranoia. They can't follow through. And like you said, it's forced. Keria gets to use this hook to buffer away. And yeah, team is split in half. But look at Guma. Full health, got a shield, everybody's low, there's no tank. Doesn't matter.
Stopwatch the entire time. Henna's by himself. It's just, if I'm T1, I'm happy I won this fight, but at the same time, it's like, I think Chronicler said this on the desk. It's like, yeah, you know, better mechanically, better team fighting are the team of T1. So they kind of just sit around and wait for Fred and Brian to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, T1 won the fight, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It wasn't even like T1 forced it to happen. They just waited for Fred and Brian to mess up. I don't know.
I mean, it was a good play from Keria. They reacted well to the package. The paranoia usage was also great to buy time there. Package was awkward, and I do agree that it was not like the sickest plays we've ever seen, and it was a mistake from Fred and Brian, but I think T1 handled it well. Now they have a really nice control over the map that I just don't think they will relinquish. I don't think Fred and Brian can take back this game.
I'm just, you know, on the side of T1, I just, if they are one of the best teams that we have here in the LCK, I want them to be like proactively making things happen, like making the plays, outplaying the lower teams, but it takes like halfway through game 2 and them just kind of waiting around for them to finally take a fight.
We did.
Yeah. Not the best look, but still going to be a very big lead for them.
We did finally get to see the difference between Guma and Henna and Money, and yes, it was after a very dominant one-team fight there. 2,300 gold is his lead over Henna. The same to be true of Zeus, actually, over Morgan. So the side laning Gwen, who built Azonia's, you know, not feeling too powerful, not feeling too threatening. And with no turrets for this Corki to hide behind, you don't just default get to be better in scaling. Like, he hits his 3-item spike here after breaking his stopwatch, now has the GA. But it's not the Ludens. Like, he doesn't actually have that extra burst damage.
Yeah.
And so, like, Lava has to sit back to farm as he's doing now, which means T1 should be able to basically get every objective after this. The 4 Ocean Soul Dream, we were like, oh, something has to go wrong for that to happen. Well, something went wrong in a big way. And T1 get a Baron. And now You know, like I said, it feels like we're going to game 3 here because the Aphelios is basically unkillable. And it's just, I mean, it's just that simple, unfortunately. Like, there's no side lane threat. There's no way to get Lava into a more aggressive position. It's going to be, the scaling aspect of Corki will come in, but it's just going to take so long. It's going to be so difficult to get to that state that I just want to make sure everybody knows that it's not just like, okay, well, if we get to 40 minutes, Corki wins by default. No, not necessarily. He needs to get items, he needs to get kills, he needs to have pressure. And we might be in a 40-minute game that T1 wins if Fred and Brion slow it down because they have the ultimate control over the map.
Absolutely. I mean, with this huge swing over, this is what we were talking about before when not much was going on, right? Like the Nocturne gets so much value, the Nautilus gets so much value, the Gnar, you know, all of these engaged and proactive champions that you have on the side of T1 get so much value. As speaking of engaged, they get in the backline and Guma's gone. As down they go, it's actually Fred and Brion the ones that make the play happen, as now GA's gone on the Nocturne. T1 are fighting a 4v5, a massive Gnar ultimate comes in here, as we got frontliners sacrificing themselves, and Faker's gonna get 2, maybe make it 3 as he tries desperately to get it there at the end. Zeus not able to collapse onto Lava, who still has his GA. And somehow T1 come out ahead in that fight.
They do come out ahead, but they just did not expect Fred and Brion to fight without an objective. And that is exactly what Fred and Brion were looking to do. Good play from Delight to set this one up, but it's not enough in the end. Package now used defensively.
Uh-oh, it's a big one hitting them, as no engage onto Umpty. This can be kited out excellently by Lava. He has to be careful, though, as
Drake is up.
He's taking it one step at a time. Teleport available for Zeus if he wanted to back and come back into this fight.
And up for Morgan. He's up in 5.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Faker, when he does respawn, will not have it. So Fred and Brion should be able to take Soul Point here.
T1 spent a lot of time taking out that inhibitor turret, and now they're not going to be in position for this Drake. They are trying to get in position here, as the Gnar is going to teleport in. We got 5 people on the side of Fred and Brion that could try to take a 5v4, but they say no.
Feels really unfortunate. The package here is just wasted, because now T1 get this Soul Point. Their package will not be available for their Soul fight. So that is really massive. It's a huge swing here. Fred and Brion were just not able to, without Flash here on Lava, without a better prio setup here with the push that T1 had mid, they could not set up better for it. This is all Delight. By the way, does this flashless? I mean, I can't say it's all Delight. It is, in fact, also Umpty who's helped set this up. But they chain CC Guma Yusi. So he's out of the fight. GA gets popped here early onto Owner. And it's Zeus who really saves this, because without his big Gnar here, Fred and Brion basically just went a 4v1 on Faker, then went a front to back. But he buys just enough time here.
Silas is so ridiculous.
Silas is also broken. Credit to Faker where it's due.
Was excellently played, yeah. That you can just see him in the backline 1v4. He got more done than the Gwen was able to. Obviously, there's a big difference in items at this moment in time. So yeah, that's part of the reason why we see a lot of first pick Silas's.
One of many.
Is left available. Yep.
Yeah, one of many reasons. Very strong champion right now. Also guarantee. It's like, it's not even fair because it's also a Gnar pick at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
You get
all right.
both.
T1 here, no package for Fred and Brion. Lava has his GA still, didn't lose it there, flashed instead. But I mean, this is
late.
not. Yeah, you cannot force this fight. You don't have the engage.
Steadfast presence for Umpty will get him out of the way. This is Mega Gnar. Zeus, no flash, but still absolutely threatening a nightmare situation for Fred and Brion.
Burst damage on a Corki is great and all, but what Corki is really good at, more than anything else, the same reason why Ezreal is really good in these late game scenarios, is that in neutral fights, when both teams are posturing, a Corki puts a timer on T1. It's like, oh, okay, you guys want to take this Drake? Well, I want to take it too. We're both kind of walking at each other. I outrange you, I outpoke you, and eventually you will have to just run at us and hard engage because you're running out of health bars, because Corki will just consistently do that. But when you are behind on the play, and T1 is on a Baron, and they have strong engage themselves and have great turn, you don't, like, Corki feels worthless in these moments. Like, yeah, if you hit an amazing rocket randomly, maybe you could force a fight even if you lose Baron, but with no vision control, no setup, no way to really aim these rockets, Lava, like I said, now a 4-item Corki doesn't feel like a strong pick when you're behind like this, though. You just cannot use it the same way as it is in an even game state or from ahead.
Let's see how the defense goes. Going to be a little bit more difficult here against this Baron buff. A lot of pushing from many different angles. Zeus gets Mega Gnar again here for just a moment. And yeah, I think you got to keep your Jinx on one side and your Corki on the other, because that's where a lot of your wave clear will come in. As Fred on the side, they want to fight instead. As in the back line, here comes Owner. They're trying to peel for Henna, but they just cannot, as the fear seems to last forever. As Morgan is getting a lot of front-to-back damage done here. Lava's still alive, but it is a couple of guys taken down here on the side of Fred Brion. T1 up 10,000 gold and looking to end this game here. Can they do it against the Corki? That's one turret shots too. Oh man, Lava just barely going to survive there on the backside of that one.
Yeah, he's got his GA, but he doesn't want to lose control.
Morgan, very, very low, has to go to the stopwatch. He is going to survive just barely, but Delight has to give his life up for it, and I think it's just enough damage. We are going to have a game number 3, as T1 just barely going to pick up this victory against Fred Brion. Not as dominant as I think T1 would have liked, but a win is a win. They buy themselves a 3rd game. And man, Faker made the Silas. I think it's got to go.
It's got to go.
It's got to go.
It's got to go. Well said, Valdez.
At least when you're on red side, I think we might be, we're nearing a 2nd necessary ban, I think. Zeri, the first one, of course.
It's hard, you know, because I think that if there was Guma on Draven, the bottom side could have been so dominant for T1 that the game could have looked different, and poorly for them in a different way. Like Pyke becomes strong again as well, and it's tough to draft against T1. They have so many things they've shown already to be quite strong, and what I was excited to see was what else does Owner have in his wheelhouse. We got to see the Nocturne. Wasn't an amazing game from him, but it was serviceable. He played it very well, and it's enough to get T1 into control of the map. And I thought what was most impressive about how Fred Brion played this game out to me was they didn't follow the traditional rules of Corki package and how they wanted to fight defensively. Delight said, no, you can't just siege us. We'll use all of our engage tools and actually fight you at a place you won't expect, and almost tripped T1 up twice. And T1's crisis management in both of those hard engaged moments from Umpty and Delight was good enough for them to actually not trip across the finish line, and they were able to land on their feet. But that was a great game, I thought, like really showcasing a completely different side here of T1 in this draft. Owner on a Nocturne, Zeus pushing advantages, trying to get Guma ahead, using the top lane. Beautiful game.
Absolutely. Calling for the carry of POG. We'll see about that. I think Faker, Mr. Goat, might be picking it up for this one. But either way, guys, we are going to go to a quick commercial break and come back with game number 3.
미드. 말만 돼.
지금 볼게 나는 지금.
볼만하다. 난 죽었어 일단. 픽스 높을.
티켓 봐. 많이 빠진 한번 보자. 이거 잡았어.
안쪽. 왼쪽에 코르케 있어. 고엔 봐야 돼. 고엔 이거. 고엔이 딜이야 얘네.
좋았다.
나 앞에부터 퍼부터. 위에 와줄래? 이거 코르케 잡을만해.
이거 턱 해야 될 것 같은데? 끝나? 안 끝날 것 같긴 한데.
잘하면 끝낼만해.
그래?
얘네 궁 다음
잘해봐.
써. 얘네 궁 다음 써.
코르키 4발
앞에
있다는데?
포트펠이라 잘하면 돼.
그웬 노고.
위에 코르케
약간
끌었고.
약간. 그웬 봐야 돼.
라칸 더블 빠졌어.
앞el 봐줘 앞el. 그웬 존야 있을 거야. 우리 앞el만 지키면 돼. 그웬 마무리 해주면 좋고. 노공. 나이스.
코르케 2탈. 나이스. 민혁 킬 먹까? 킬 먹었네?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the analyst chairs and collaborative carpet space. I'm Atlas, this is Chronicler, and we just had an extraordinarily slow game of League of Legends. Chronicler, do you want to have a look at the draft?
I'd like to call methodical.
Ah, yes.
Roll. And really harken back to the days of LCK past, where we had a lot of yoga going on, a lot of meditation.
Yes, indeed.
Looking at these drafts, is that what you expect? No, not really.
No.
Because especially from T1, you have dive, and more dive.
You do?
Yeah, and then on the other end, you have a lot of kite back and a lot of poke. So ideally, the poke composition moves forward and tries very aggressively to get a lot of damage done. You don't delay a huge item spike till the 4th item, like we saw a certain Corki do, which is definitely not ideal. Because I think, jokes aside, if Fred and Brian makes it to like a mid to late game stage, they should win.
Yeah.
And T1 shouldn't let them. And I think T1 did a pretty good job, but they just didn't acknowledge side lanes at some point, really.
They did.
Which slowed it down a lot.
Yeah, in the early moments of the game,
They did.
there was one gank that Ona did very cleverly, sitting in that brush at level 5, hits level 6 off the minion, goes to the paranoia gank onto the Gwen, was beautifully executed. They then had a bit of a lane swap towards that top side, and then we had our first highlight. Let's bring it up onto your screen here, everyone. The highlight lasted for a very long time. Yeah.
And you might be thinking, is something going to happen? And the answer is no.
No.
No, nothing's going to happen. Side lanes aren't real.
Nope.
Looping for an objective that isn't there is real.
Yep.
And we have one team with a lot of hard engage, but the other team knows that they're there, so you can't really get a good angle.
Yep. And as we pan up towards the upper side, you can see a hook does fly off as something's happened. Excuse me. Can someone needs to poke Yundo.
Has he fallen asleep?
Oh, okay. I think he's coming.
Okay,
bring
he's
it
back.
back. Okay. Whew, thought we lost him there for a moment, but thankfully we do have some adorable polar bears for you to observe. It was definitely a very, very slow mid-game.
Yeah, and the reason why we highlight this is because with T1's comp, ideally, I think you want to apply a lot more pressure in side lanes and then collapse with the Nocturne to force Fred and Brian to, as Atlas is distracting me by looking at the cute polar bear, you actively try to snowball your leads a lot harder. What happened instead was, I think T1, justifiably so, said we're the better team, we're just going to look for a straight up 5v5 when we get a good angle.
Yep, and they did eventually find one. Let's have a look at that Drake fight that really did seal the deal on this game. Largely to do with the fact that Gumyushi's positioning was a lot better than Henna's, but also he was just untouched in this fight.
Yeah, and we have reached the point, we're very far into the game. A lot of engage coming through here on a Nautilus with Aftershock and a stopwatch. So a lot of resources are going to get used here, a lot of cooldowns. Ulta, yeah, you collapse on the carrier, but T1, they're very happy to take this trade. Crucially, Lava goes into his stopwatch very early after a play that doesn't really get a lot done, and then Gumyushi identifies correctly, every cooldown is down. I have Infernum, I got a bunch of items in my back pocket, flashes in, really nicely done, very important, and it kind of felt like T1 was just waiting for a moment where Fred O'Brien would make a misplay. Fred O'Brien make the misplay. From that point on, T1 just rolled over the rest of the game.
Yep, they absolutely did. A lot of absolutely amazing plays by the GOAT himself as well. Faker having some really key highlight moments towards the end of that game to really close it out, looking absolutely brilliant on the Sylas. And it's another one of these games. It's an example of pick a whole bunch of really good ultimates for the Sylas to steal away if you see a Sylas picked up on the blue side. We saw this from Damwon yesterday.
Yeah.
Guess what happened then?
As I mentioned between the two of us just now, I think that we got a feeling that the red side drafting was getting a little bit more balanced. We saw some teams pick red side. There was a little bit of development there, but ever since Sylas has come through, which not only is like a blind pick that you can do, but also locks out the Gnar of being valid. The pick just has too much power, so you're always going to be in a very awkward position on red side. And it makes our drafts like a little more predictable and
yeah.
I think really hard on red side. You got to take big risks, and none of them seem to really be working out.
Yeah, and what it basically does is it gives you a free Gnar as well. So it's basically you pick Sylas, you get a first pick Gnar at the same time, or someone picks Nah into you and you're better Nah anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even really matter. A lot of our top laners are also very good at playing the Sylas as well into the Nah. We've seen, in fact, if you've watched any of Zeus' solo queue, he's like got a ridiculous record at the moment for the Sylas top lane. That was theoretically a flex pick for T1 as well, as I believe we're getting closer and closer to the POG as well. So G-Sun, whenever that comes up, feel free to just put it up onto the screen. I want to be surprised by the GOAT coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think it might be Faker, but I also think Owner had a really impactful game.
True.
Same can be said for Guma that had a pivotal team fight, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a similarly split vote like we saw in the first game, although that was crazy, but it will be. Yeah, will be Faker. That Sylas play was just a little bit too good.
It was absolutely amazing. 32% of the damage share as well on any melee champion is very impressive. Of course, he gets to steal away some rockets as well as this gank towards Morgan on the top side. Another big moment here for T1, but this was the key one. This one, oh man, he just finds the back line and wins the fight almost alone.
That flash with the quickness active is just backbreaking here. The fact that he's able to trade as well. And yeah, Fingers is... I don't mind the Guma votes. The one Owner vote, actually exactly what we talked about. It's nice.
Yeah. Now, we actually can't media Keck W because we already stated that we're okay with the Owner votes coming in. But thankfully, we are blessed with as much League of Legends as we possibly can get out of our first match today. So let's throw it back to the casters for game number 3.
Thank you, Sleepy Volabears, for that wonderful breakdown. Yes, a little bit slowly paced. T1 waiting for their moment to strike. And they did catch Fred Brion in that one. So we do have a game number 3. We'll see how that does go.
Yeah. I think it has to be said that T1 were pushed to the brink against Kwangdong in that second series. That rematch ended up being way more hype than expected. And now Fred Brion coming in playing a fantastic series. They now have blue side advantage. They had it to start the series off, but obviously as it's gone 3 games, they will have it again. This is not the series that anyone expected, and with blue side advantage, there's a lot of picks that we could see going over to the side of Fred Brion who could give him an edge here going into the third and final game. I think everyone's expectations is still T1 will close this series out, but the fact that we have to kind of think about it a little bit is a little bit worrying for a team that's 10-1 against 1-10. Like, drop a few to Afrika or Kwangdong, that is to say. Feel all right, but to Fred Brion, it's a little bit worrying. So hoping to finish here strong are the T1 fans.
And as we said, and as the guys on the desk did also say, the drafts nowadays on red side are really difficult. It almost feels like you have 2 necessary bans now. It's just not an easy place to navigate. And Fred Brion, of course, the home team, they're going to get 2 times here on blue side. So this might be their best opportunity to really surprise everybody and take an upset win over T1. So T1 have to be extremely careful to play their best game here in game 3, because as I was saying and hinting at in game 2, I don't think that was their best game. I think that T1 slowly ramping up today. They looked a little bit sleepy against Kwangdong as well. And this is what I was talking about. You just got to take that Sylas away. And
it's going to be on our first pick, obviously, as a result. This is where things can get a little bit more interesting. We'll see if Guma plays another game of Aphelios here, and third back-to-back, as Corki's still up, Faker's Azir still up. You know, Faker's Azir in game 1, not his greatest performance, but I still think Aphelios Azir here is safe and strong, very powerful into what Fred Brion has been playing so far tonight. And we could also see Aphelios Corki, where you have a little bit of power bottom side, and the Aphelios, you're not going to lose it to anything that's up, because Lucian's gone, Draven's gone, Kallista's gone, and then, you know, you're just happy to scale with the Corki in the later parts. But for the first time, Owner will look to prioritize his Lee Sin that's been banned away from him both times. Looks like that might be the go here for T1.
Yeah, I do like it. I think getting ahead of it and allowing that to go through. It doesn't look like Umti was very happy, even though he was smiling. Let's see how he feels about this one. As, yeah, I think it's a great point. We might just see Henna kind of priced into another Jinx lane, and we might see a lack of action down there. And T1 were mostly okay with that in game number 2. The Poppy, maybe a third game of it here for Umti.
We'd love to see Poppy Rakan because there's still a lot of picks that Henna can lock in. Doesn't necessarily need to grab an AD carry here. Now, if they really want the Jinx, you have to do it here. Will be Lava's Rise, it looks like, though, instead. Remember, Corki and Azir are still up, and he's picking this blind, if it is, of course, locked in. And I was mentioning the Rakan because I feel like Delight has had 2 pretty great games, and the Rakan was a huge reason why Game 2 was as close as it was. And will be the Rise, though, so see what Faker wants to play into this. The Rise is one of the only champions that can really put the pressure on Azir in early lane. This does discourage the Corki pick quite significantly. I think Faker still feels happy to lane into Lava on this Rise if he did want to play the Azir. He'll have to make that choice now.
I kind of like the Azir here. Let's see what he does go for. No, it's going to be Galio instead. So definitely can make some plays with that, but also can be very defensive against what they could be expecting here, because it's same style of draft as Game 1 where Fred and Brion were able to get the win, but obviously no Kalista Mumu. So they're going to have to find some way to get that to happen. Rakan could be away.
I think that they 100% need to ban Ezreal, T1 do. They've banned away the Senna. Camille is never going to make it through, obviously, you know, with the Galio here. We've seen Galio as a response to Rise and as a response to Twisted Fate so much in the LCK. But the difference between Twisted Fate and Rise is that Rise will have perma-prio early here in this lane, and we'll be able to shove it into Galio repeatedly. So there's so much power with Poppy, Rise, and you get your pick of the litter in terms of 80 carries. You can outrange this comp. You have Ezreal, you take Cleanse. You know, you feel pretty good about a lot of different picks that could come in on the top side to try to pile on with this Galio. They ban away the Renata instead, which is another great deterrent, obviously, to Lee Sin Galio. Just drop down the ultimate and say, well, that's the end of your dive. But let's see what T1 bring in here. When we look at the supports for Engage, there is a lot.
We've seen the Gnar Gwen go head-to-head a couple of times now, will be denied, and has been a pick we've seen a lot of times alongside of the Galio as well. So could be the answer here, just to go for a top laner and then wait for the bottom lane, but instead they might just want to prio Aphelios and Nautilus.
I think Nautilus here, because we've seen T1 run Galio Pike, as it's just insta Xayah Rakan coming in here. Not going to be the Ezreal, but another similar AD carry that can easily disengage, obviously, with Xayah's ultimate. Ezreal obviously will be able to disengage with his E. And there's no Camille on the board here, so you really only have to deal with one hard engage. If you get out, you get out. What I love about the Nautilus is it's multifaceted. Strong with the Galio here. The Gangplank is going to add a bunch of extra damage and slows to this. But Nautilus was also very defensive against potential dives we're going to see with Lethality Xayah. I think it is very likely going to be Lethality Xayah, as much as Atlas is rolling his eyes right now hearing that. And Rise pylons on the bottom side, where he's just going to Realm Warp down there with Poppy. Nautilus can root people under turret, try to trade back. Makes it very difficult to dive. He's got, between his root and his hook, a lot of peel on the bottom side of the map, so it's going to be very difficult for Fred and Brion to just push Guma and Keria out of lane, grab early plates, and get massive advantages there. So I think this Nautilus really, for me, is quite a key pick, actually, for Keria to defend that part, because otherwise you've got good scaling on the Gangplank. You could match some of those Rise rotations later on with Faker's Galio, which has been, in my opinion, by far most consistent and best Galio this season. He was the one who made the Flash 5-man taunt happen earlier on this season. So I like the draft that Fred and Brion put together here. I thought it was very smart, and I'm still shocked. All 3 games, I'm like, wow, you guys really came prepared tonight. But I do think that the Nautilus hurt some of this draft's early game.
Yeah, could be. I'm a big fan of this sign of Fred and Brion. We'll see how they do fight their fights, though, because I think a bit of a blemish there in game number 2. T1, not my favorite draft. Not quite my tempo from them, but we'll have to wait and see how it does go, how Faker can pilot the Galio in an aggressive sense, as he has in the past. Let's jump onto the rift for game number 3. Fred Brion engaged, and the rest of the team did not follow up. So Umpty went in and had to flash away, and then they just gave first blood.
That was very poorly done, unfortunately, for Fred Brion.
That was almost like somebody wasn't ready, or the comms like weren't together. I don't know. It just looked weird.
It's a flash for an Ignite, but first blood does go over to the Gangplank. So guess what? Top side. Nobody has to guess. You already know the answer. Top side is going to be very tough. He picks up an extra longsword. He will be able to get a Sheen early. So the fight starts off with Delight here at the front. And
Delight hit the... Oh, they expected Faker to run into the bush.
Yeah.
But Umpty pushed him out of the bush.
Yeah, Umpty pushes him out. Also, like, I mean, if you're going to...
Not like this.
I mean, they don't know everybody from T1 is there, but if you see Faker like that, you have to expect that's going to be the case. Like, I don't even want to get into that
I
because
guess
it was very
Umpty
messy.
thought he would be able to angle it into the wall, and then if you follow up with, of course, the Rakan knockup, it's great. And probably Faker has to flash or perhaps even die. But instead, it just looked very silly. And T1 will benefit from that.
I really just... I'll make my stance on these types of plays clear. I think it's very high risk and high variance, this type of play, and wholly unnecessary for your draft to succeed. It's like flipping a coin, and Fred Brion have proven in this series so far they don't need these coin flippy, like, sick advantages to actually bring T1 to the brink. They beat them in Game 1. Really well played. Game 2 was very close. And put yourself in a high-risk play. If Guma gets that kill, the situation is arguably even worse. It's still terrible that it's Zeus who gets it because this is going to be a very dominant lane for him. He has that extra stats, the extra stats from that longsword. We'll get a faster Sheen, and it's just a really tough game for Morgan to play now in. It was arguably our biggest mismatch. That's why this was the key player matchup. We've talked about it all 3 games, and this time it's just not even fair. This is not Morgan's fault that he has to deal with this, but he will be dealing with it. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, we have a 6-game winning streak for Jungle Lee Sin. I think, who was it? Kingen played it recently and perhaps did not win. Pyosik played it a couple of times and did smash a couple of games. So, DRX with another win over Dalmonkia. That happened yesterday.
Kingen did win that game, and I was like the only one who voted for him for POG. I was pretty sad.
So
that's the only reason why I remember that.
I wonder why they say Jungle Lee Sin then, because I think it was recent, right? It was beginning of this week, should be just Lee Sin and then 7-game winning streak instead of Jungle Lee Sin. As never mind about that, we're trading flashes. And at the end of the day, Faker low on health, you know, trying to abuse the fact that Lava's trying to put that pressure on. Doesn't amount to too much, but they do trade flashes here.
I guess the argument is just to zoom in on more of the more relevant role for Lee Sin, I guess.
Yeah.
And just exclude that one rogue game as Umpty is, I believe, seen for just a moment, but Zeus isn't reacting quickly.
Yeah. Zeus didn't see him. He was on vision, but I don't think Zeus saw him, so he has to flash.
That's huge here, and it's at the sacrifice, of course, of the bottom side control that Dumusi and Keria are going to have here. But, because that's conveyed to them, of course, hey, we're going top side for a play. You're not going to have jungle backup in a potential 3v3. It's not going to be a 3v3. So, Guma and Keria will be small victors here with this. But we do see, of course, Flash is taken away. Zeus now out of mana. Will, of course, be able to probably buy a Sheen on his first back, like we were talking about with that extra money and the faster longsword. But still, does give Morgan some extra breathing room here, which is so important. He also is, of course, notified that Faker is missing and gets out of dodge.
Yeah, spotted there on the Scuttle Crab and just has to back off for a couple moments. Faker not really missing anything by doing this, just putting pressure on the map where he has to be.
Lava trying to hold this wave in a nice spot.
Oh, no. Morgan lulled into a false sense of security, and Owner will collect the free kill. Very, very nicely done by Owner.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, we've seen some really sick flash kicks from Owner, but he's like, I'm level 5. Have you seen my flash auto?
Not sure what happened here as Delight goes in, gets hooked. They try to get on top of Guma, but a double grab at him, and now Faker with Predator is going to get this taunt down. That is a dead Rakan. Umpty can do nothing about it, and now it's 3-0 for T1.
And Lava's going to push this mid-wave pretty hard here. Has been otherwise trying to hold Faker's wave into an awkward spot, but Umpty hasn't made a pass at Faker this game. You know, Faker obviously did have to expend his flash early on in the game, so I get the idea here, but playing the Rise into this, you usually have a little bit more control, and Galio isn't usually able to pre-6 to be able to make these types of rotations. He's made 2 now, as Faker's been given that extra freedom, and will only pay for his rotation here with a little bit of lost CS, but nothing too significant. It's a plate, obviously, that goes over to Lava as well, but the tempo advantage you get as T1 here is way more significant. As we watch Owner just, I mean, Morgan walks into turret range here. There's no two ways about this. It was greed. He was trying to push his advantage, and he walks so far forward that the Sonic Wave hits him. As, yeah, this was really aggressive here from the side of Fred Brion, and Faker is not mid. And you see Umpty is coming down. I think that's the idea is, okay, Umpty's going to come down. We're going to try to force this trade, then we'll surprise them. However, Faker shows up first, picks up the kill.
Yeah, carry a perfect response as well. The second that Delight goes in, he just gets hooked down by the Nautilus, and that's another place where the Nautilus can have some value there early on in this lane. As here comes Owner, has Keria nearby, Delight is here. Probably not going to even see this happening, so a lot of the bottom side of the map going the way of T1, alongside of course, that gank on the top side, so Owner already getting a lot of plays done and action for his team.
And, I mean, T1 have the better scaling comp for a lot of reasons. I mean, the Aphelios and Gangplank are 2 champions that do a lot of damage late in the game. But they also have Galio, who damage-wise doesn't scale as well, but utility-wise and how much he can do for you in a team fight, his taunt, his ultimate is massive scaling in terms of utility. And the value of this pick can be very strong if you have the damage to back it up. Sometimes you see this weak Galio late game because there is no damage. And Galio also doesn't do damage, but not to be the case this time around. Owner has 6.
Uh-oh. He does not have flash, but they are trying to set this up anyway. Kick not going to come in. Delight very nicely responds immediately. And he will be okay, but Owner could just come for another pass and continue to put pressure on here. As Zeus, speaking of pressure, has a call up against a call, but a Sheen against a Ruby Crystal. Definitely going to feel very nice for the Gangplank now.
Yeah, feels bad for Morgan. He's trying to do what he can here in this lane and trade back, but it's like Zeus didn't have to make the choice between the Sheen and the Cole. He gets both because he's just got that extra first blood gold and didn't actually get an assist from that Owner gank earlier. I didn't even realize that until just now. It was only Owner who kills him as Lava desperately comes over here to try to clear vision. There is no commitment otherwise whatsoever here. Now, this is kind of cute. Crescendum is up, so they can both have the Aphelios here for the Rift Herald fight, but then also look to dive onto Morgan.
Oh, no. He's going to hop away, but
like, Owner could just take this and crash this right in if he chooses to, because Morgan, his Narvar is gone now. He is pushed away from this lane. And look where Zeus is going bottom side. They have to match the rotation. I'm a whole step ahead. And this is against a Realm War team comp. The Rise exists, but he's just not able to match the rotation. We'll stop them from getting more than just a few plates up here. But bottom side is free for the taking for Zeus.
Spotted the whole way, but it looks like T1 want to take the fight, but immediately Keria goes in, and the rest of them are like, well, we can't follow up on this. Cleanse Flash from Guma just to get away, and even the Cannon Barrage, not enough to help him out.
So I guess the Realm Warp is going to work out here, Valdez, as T1 just do not respect it well enough. They were backing away, but backing away way too late. So it's a dead Keria. Guma losing both of his summoners, as you mentioned. Faker will not secure a plate. Lava did have teleport, so this is the power of Rise, man, and why he was one of the big votes. Obviously, it did go to Delight in Game 1, but a lot of people voted for him too because his macro sense on this champion was so good. He makes a play bottom side, catches the wave mid with his teleport. And now the lane swap, it got some value, but not really because of the punish there onto Keria. It's just a rotation of the bottom duos to the top side. Still T1 getting a better trade of things here, but it's not as good as it could have been.
Yeah, still up about 1,500 golds here at the 10-minute mark, so just cruising along. They are. They have that 1 kill on their Gangplank, 1 kill on the Galio. Even 1 for the Lee Sin. The Lee Sin, I feel like in the hands of, okay, this is not going to be spotted by Owner. He has to flash and then kick for safety.
Different kind of kick flash here.
True. As Faker now, he's got another idea in mind. Flash forced here by Umpty. And the hook onto Delight. But this is a Rakan. Can they 100-0 him? No, they cannot because Poppy Humpty able to hit a couple of them out here. As now the lethality damage coming in from Henna. He's got a big blade. Kohler flashes in for that one, and he still can't get the damage done. The lethality just not enough against these two players. Unbelievable.
They're not
Faker
done
and
yet.
Owner gonna get away as Guma is sacrificed to the Wolves. Not able to get onto the right side of that blast plant, and I suppose Bro finally gets something.
Oh man, they almost get 3 off of this play. If they get all 3 of this, it's a huge swing for them. Morgan is still, in control of this bottom side right now as well in this isolated 1v1. And T1 way overstepped their boundaries here. And this time it's not because a Rise is realm warping them for the punish play, it's because Henna decides he wants to pop off. He just has the single Dirk in terms of lethality, but it's a lot of extra damage at this stage. Can of course chase through the CC, using his ultimate as he did there, has the follow-up flash and heal. This is a great mechanical play from Henna. We're gonna go way back here though to the punish of Guma and Keria. As Keria decides to hook in, and there's just no follow-up. Like, if Faker is already ulting, you could maybe make an argument for that being the proper move, but you could also make the argument that he's trying to sacrifice himself to save Guma. But this is where T1 really overextend. They use the Nautilus ult early, and Fred and Brianna ready to chase. Lava has no Everfrost, but does, of course, have a lot of CC here. And then look at Henna.
Poppy is insane, man.
Poppy pushes him away.
Hits the entire front line away, and Guma's like, what?
And then Henna comes over the wall here, has the heal to chase, and just barely is not able to take Owner out. His safeguard saves, and Faker gets a shield as well.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he was just denied. Could not actually get up to the other side there. I think it was Lava who hit the plant to push him in.
Not Keria's fault. Just, just got caught on the wrong side of that one. And yeah, I mean, the Dirk Zaya, not enough this early on in the game. Henna, of course, basically no items, but a fantastic play nonetheless. Another Drake does go the way of T1, as we do have Mountain Rift in this one. Mountain Soul going to be the choice, and both sides are going to love that. So a lot of fighting over that, no doubt. Keria is going to get locked up by the Feathers. Humpty around, but they don't know exactly where Owner is. They don't want to overcommit.
Nice sidestep there from Keria on the knock-up as well. Goes to the left side. Does buy himself an extra second and can, of course, get away. 2 Drake lead here for T1. And despite that loss in the team fight, skirmish, let's call it, there, where Henna almost got a triple. It wasn't a triple, and Fred and Brianna are still behind in gold. The lethality Zaya is not where she would like to be at this stage in time. It's just a Dirk, obviously, right? But see what he ends up building later on this game, because there's still some wiggle room here with this build he's chosen so far. But T1 are very happy. Not about how that last fight went, nor about the punish top side, but they're overall very happy, I think, about the game state that they are in right now, because the Drake lead buys them a ton of time. Zayas is uncontested here in this side lane because Owner's with him. They know this. And these split plates for Isaiah versus solo plates for the Gangplank, I don't think I need to explain to everybody who wins that trade.
Wow, first turret blood. Looks like he got all 5 plates, too, so Zeus really getting a huge amount of value. Nice engage here. His Owner's over the wall, too. Morgan and Mininar gets caught, and huge amount of lockdown on the side of T1. You get rooted up, double time by Keria, and then you've got a Galio follow up with a taunt. It's just a bit too much, and you really got to watch your step.
Man, Zayas almost saves that turret, too, while he continues to push. And, like, Owner was doing so much all at once because T1 have enough wave clear here mid to threaten the mid turret, so Lava can't try to punish Zayas with his Realm Warp. And Owner is between 2 lanes. He is both protecting Zayas, which pushes Morgan away, but also setting up for a gank mid and potential kills there to guarantee the turret. Just love how he knows that there's just not enough damage to force that first turret bottom side, and that plate gold is split. This is just T1 having immense macro sense here, and Owner playing it so well. Don't know if we'll get a replay of it, but if we do, I'll show you guys again. But T1 now in firm control of the second Herald. They have the choke point controlled. This is a very different fight than the last one where Poppy is able to ult the front line away.
It's going to be extremely difficult for Fred and Brion to fight into this, so instead they will just give it away. Probably the right call. I don't think that trying to force through the choke against a Fed Gangplank and a Fed Galio is any time going to be the right decision. So they're just going to hang out, farm it a bit more. They're spreading out. Actually had a nice little 1-3-1 going for just a moment.
Yeah. calm and collected here are T1. Fred and Brion not taking any unnecessary risks despite having a 2 stopwatch set up here. This is not the fight they want to force. They'd rather force a fight on this 3rd Drake. The soul point here for T1. It's Mountain Soul against Lethality Xayah. Feels bad. It is once again, of course, going to be Lava building for damage. Just want to highlight this because it has been a long time since we've actually seen Ryze be a damage dealer. So look at Owner here. Like I said, he's both protecting Zeus, but also setting up for a gank at the same time by just surfing between top and mid. And there's just nothing that Morgan can do about it. He can't handle the gangplank. He's too far behind. And definitely doesn't want to be when he doesn't know where Owner is. And then if they realm warp top, Zeus walks away, Owner defends him, and then they lose mid-turret. So catch-22 problem here for Fred and Brion.
Yeah, definitely just a really nice setup from the side of T1. Owner and Carrier kind of putting their heads together. Faker there as well. Trying to clear out as much vision here before this very crucial fight. This could be the straw that broke the camel's back in this one, as has been chip by chip, as that is a Poppy in the front here. Ryze as well on the side, not really getting much value. Lava has to stopwatch and flash away. Here comes Delight on the follow-up, and Henna still not really doing too much damage. As now Guma, he's got a fantastic angle on the left side of this one, and that is just going to be another pick. As the flash comes in from Guma, he's able to get it. Morgan hits nobody with that one, as Owner gets a little bit ahead of himself, but it's okay. Both junglers are down. T1 have total control at the moment. Probably are going to take this turret and the dragon.
I love how T1 played this. Like, this is the T1 we expected to see in all 3 games. We will get it at least in this 3rd one here. They've got a strong draft. They have good win conditions here. But the way they're playing this mid-game is aggressively, assertively, and they are not going to just sit back and wait for mistakes. They have a lead, and they're going to push. As we go back to this moment here, Taunt does end up catching frontline here, so Umpty has to stopwatch early. Look at how much damage Guma does in this fight. He forces Lava's stopwatch, is untouched, Poppy ults, and then Guma realizes, okay, Lava wants to try to come back in here. I have Infernum, and they're all stacked up. His Infernum damage in this choke point here is massive. Then switches to Gravitum to get a lockdown. He's got the utility guns he needs for a siege fight like this. And then Owner overextends. We'll just ignore that one, because everything else about this was really great for T1.
Yeah, they got it down. It is a Mountain Drake and trade for the top turret, I suppose. Umpty trying to scrap together some of the enemy camps. Whatever he can get here. Not really going to do much else. And yeah, Fred and Brion are definitely in a bit of a situation now, because if you consider their range in this game compared to the last one where they had the Corki Jinx, now you're fighting into a Galio and a Nautilus and barrels and all this stuff, and you've got like this Ryze who's going damage, and then you've got Lethality Xayah against a lot of resistances and a tanky frontline. Where is the range of the damage really coming from when you're behind? I do not really see it here for Fred and Brion.
Yeah, notice the builds too here, Valdez. Like, Carrier's got an Even Shroud, and okay, Delight.
This Rakan is kicked there, and actually just flash on top of that. He will be able to get away. Owner as well. Slippery on the Lee Sin.
Hashtag things Rakan does, but that was a really nice mechanical play there from Delight. Does, of course, lose his flash, but Carrier expended his in that exchange as well. But yeah, like the tanky Nautilus here, plus the Hex Drinker that Owner is building, they just know the Henna is not a big threat in this game, unfortunately. He's low range. They have the tempo control. They have a Galio. If Henna's in range, it's probably his problem, not his success, actually.
Yeah.
So they're just building a little bit of magic resistance. If they can stem the bleeding from Lava's damage in these longer fights, they should feel pretty nice. As Morgan will get some damage done, but it's not going to be permanent. Meanwhile, T1 full control of bottom and mid. Now, as Baron spawns here, I don't think they quite have enough damage to T1 it. And when I say T1 it, I mean just walk at a Baron and start it on spawn with or without vision control. I don't think that's what they're looking for.
They have a lot of damage, and they do have some tanky frontline, but I don't think there's any reason for them to risk it at this point in time.
If Henna shows bottom, and they're all grouped up, he does not have teleport. Henna's like, okay, I see.
They are running in that direction.
Henna's like, I see. All right. I'll go. I know they're T1ing. You have to respond.
Umpty trying to secure a blue buff. Can't do that. It's now a bit of a follow-up here, but Zeus, even he feels tanky with a thick health bar at this point in time. He's got the follow-up from the Galio. Not the cleanest fight here, but at the end of the day, T1 are just far ahead enough. His owner goes deep again and gets just assassinated. As if you get in range, it can be a little bit of an issue, as now Faker going in, he's got some support from the artillery, which is Gumayusi at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-for-1. I guess it's Fred Brion successful Baron deny. That was not the cleanest.
Positively.
Yeah, it was not the cleanest there from T1, and owner got a little bit greedy trying to go for the flashy play, but you can see the reason why he goes for it, because if he actually traps them there and they get a triple kill and he survives, then they get a Baron and the game is essentially won. It is very much in T1's control right now. They have Soul Point, but they're not able to take the Baron, and owner does, you know, if you want to be super critical, flub it a little bit there, but you could see that the reason why he made that play was a high risk, high reward, and they had almost control of the fight. As we'll watch it one more time. The Smite fight here also means that owner doesn't have Smite for this exchange, so I think Fred Brion could have played this slower.
Can't lie, Faker's alone. I don't think he realized that there were about 17 Fred Brion members here, including teleports, but if you're going to teleport bot and make sure, I mean, this is double teleport actually, so
Realm Warp's up, but they have to come real quick over here.
yeah,
the light has
Faker, ult, and now you might just give the Baron away.
The light has ult.
Okay, let's see what Delight can do. He's over the wall. Nope. No
Can
chance.
they get out, though? But can they get out? Like, that's the question. Realm Warp's up. Delight's here. They don't know.
They know. They know now. That is a four-man knockup, but no follow-up here. As Umpty thinking about getting over the wall, they do not commit to the Realm Warp. Not grouped up, it felt like, for that.
Yeah.
Even though level 8, or 13, rather, they could have potentially, but not going to risk it.
They were so close to punishing that. But T1 will, you know, the first T1 didn't work, the second T1's going to work here on the Baron. I think we just have to turn this into a verb because they do it all the time and they pull it off so consistently. As now the Maw Malmortius is done for owner here, so killing him is going to be a lot more complicated. Faker's sacrifice is not in vain. And I mean, Fred Brion, can you even win this fight? You do not have Realm Warp, you do not have Rakan ult. I think the call to try to use both those ults to punish T1 was correct, but because they failed, the consequences now T1 has Baron and Mountain Soul.
It's like one of those things, you know, it can be seen as a loser's situation, but one of your options, you are taking a proactive play and you can potentially control it, right? So Faker's here alone. They're like, okay, we'll double teleport. Maybe Faker can teleport out in time. Doesn't get out in time, but it doesn't matter because, I mean, he pulled 3 people by.
Yeah, and even with Realm Warp, I think the reason why Fred Brion thought they would be okay here is they have Realm Warp, but we're at a stage of the game where the damage is quite high in the Aphelios. And T1 were already, like, kind of with one hand in the cookie jar on the Baron. Like, they were very ready to just start this up. Like, Faker knew that he might die, or at least force a lot of attention, but it might be at the, you know, expense of Fred Brion's Baron. And they almost turned it. Like, Rakan's flank there, like, the light was so ready. It's not enough. It's okay, Lava.
Okay, gonna force it. The flash does come out, and that's going very deep just for a rise. It's not going to amount to too much, just a flash trade, which is going to be valuable for the side of T1, especially from ahead.
Don't think that, unfortunately, Fred Brion could try to force anything here, though. And the Mountain Soul is going to get so much value against this Xayah, who went to Serpent's Fang expecting this. I do like that adaptation here, at least.
Steadfast Presence used, and so Faker just gonna flash on top of this one. He knows he's got the backup in terms of damage now, so that is a dead Poppy. With the Baron looking to push and get as much as possible.
If there's no Soul here, maybe this goes better, but it's Galio, he's very tanky, he has his Zonius, he has an Everfrost. And, I mean, there's only so many things I could say to try to make Fred Brion fans feel like there's still a chance, or there's still a way, or there's still an angle, because, I mean, it's a very unlucky scenario that they're in right now in terms of how the Drakes fell. Like, if this was another Ocean Soul game or a Cloud Soul game, you'd feel a lot better about their chances to still win a fight here on the Elder. Because it's Fred Brion, you're like, okay, it's the Elder Power Spike. Nah, probably not, actually. Look at how much damage Faker can take here in these types of fights. Flash is on the taunt. Look at everybody turns on, they're like, oh, we can't do this. Curry is on the top side, grabs the light, forces him to dash away. And that's just it. Like, Cannon Barrage is layered on top of it. you have to walk away or you are going to get wiped in the game will end. T1 has just kind of checkmated Fred Brion in this game. And we've talked about how there's some variations of the lethality. The Serpent's Fang is definitely the right call here. But it's itemizing into losing, basically, unfortunately, because it's not that great except at taking away shields, which means that you're not getting anything else. And Lethality Xayah was a good idea. Didn't get those 3 kills he wanted. We keep going back to that, but...
He has 3 kills, but they weren't the ones he wanted.
Yeah, not the ones he wanted. Not enough of a lead here around the map.
Yeah. And it is almost a Jedi mind trick with how little damage he does sometimes, it feels like. It does feel bad, of course, but yeah, I mean, now up against the Mountain Soul and all of the resistances stacked on everybody. You know, you even mentioned the Maw, the Hex Drinker that was initially built on Owner. Kind of foreseeing that this situation would eventually end up the way it is now for T1.
I just think that
doesn't really do much.
The even shroud here for Keria is going to get so much value always, basically, too. Like, he could have gone for Locket, which would have been pretty strong as well. But, like, with all the CC that's constantly being pushed into him and his based CC as Nautilus, like, this is pretty common to see. But I think it's insane value into Ryze, Poppy, Gnar, Rakan. So I really like that build from him. Like, he's also now got his... I don't know, Glacial Shield, I forget the technical name for that item there. But it's just got so many resistances.
Shroud.
Shroud, thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, anticlimactic end of the series, I guess, in a lot of ways. But Fred Brion priced himself into this draft and then went for that level 1 fight, which I know he loves his level 1 segments. I think we're probably a pretty good chance you guys will be looking at that one again. But
could be.
I just Fred Brion, so many good ideas here, and I don't even dislike the Lethality Xayah. I do now, but you know, how could we have known? If you're playing to be like in a state where your Xayah needs to be doing crit damage, then why'd you pick Xayah? That's kind of how I look at it. You're playing a Realm Warp comp where you could try to dive and put that pressure on T1. They didn't know it was going to be Nautilus. They weren't sure. Very difficult. They fell behind topside. Zeus got that extra kill. I think Fred Brion's had an intelligent draft and really cool ideas with this one. The execution this time around, I think, was their weakest of the 3. And as a result, T1 just kind of stomping right now. There's not much else to say. So they're going to look for a second Baron. Choke points controlled.
Doing a good job of denying vision here. You see that Delight is... You know, in terms of tankiness, Umpty and Delight, they kind of have to be the ones that move forward as Owner looking for the assassination here as Delight kind of just going in there. He's got some allies around the kind of barrage used, and they will push Fred Brion back. Tons of damage right now on the side of T1, and immaculate turn. I mean, when you just look at Galio and Nautilus even together, not to mention Barrels, Moonlight Vigil, Lee Sin. Right.
Look at Zeus stand here with the barrel chain preset.
Just easily set up and just wait for the fight. Or just take the Baron if they don't come in here. As waiting for that. Okay, that's a gone Nautilus. Is now just going to try to burst this one down and then go for the turn. They take the Baron. In they go onto the Mega Gnar. The Gnar is not great. And Guma is just shelling out damage like a machine gun here. As the follow-up onto Owner, pretty nice. A lot of damage there from the lethality onto him, at least, as Umpty on the run very fast with the Poppy. But at the end of the day, it's a trade, and T1 get the Baron. Still feeling good for them as Flash is traded here once again.
Teleport onto that minion. Lava does have his Realm Warp available here, so should be able to get out just fine. I think Fred Brion were really hoping maybe they could trade back, have those better respawn timers, and then go for an Elder fight. But Elder's up. T1 have ultimate control here. Baron is still up for them. There's one Realm Warp angle. It's not a good one. And by angle, I don't mean like the actual geometry of it. I mean like there is one way you could maybe win a fight is if T1 really drop the ball and you just randomly Realm Warp win.
They don't even know that they backed here. And okay, we're just starting Elder. And I mean, they have a lot of damage, right? They have this Ryze, they have this Xayah.
They have a choke point.
And
Baker no flash.
Yeah, they're trying to get in there. The Cannon Barrage is here, but this is a free Elder to Fred Brion?
Umpty doesn't smite it? Like, that was a little bit concerning.
No.
That was a little bit alarming, but you know they're going to take it. Lava's going to grab that in the end. I mean, you got to be ready for that one if the Cannon Barrage is on top. But hey, they take it.
we were looking at Fred Brion's vision, but I want to see what T1 were doing. I guess they backed to buy items after the Baron fight, right? But they teleported in, so...
So the assumption, and we're going to watch this fight one more time, is Morgan is knocked up here. The Gnar is not great. It's used defensively. They have a choke point here. And Fred Brion are hoping they're going to trade back onto Owner. They're like, ooh, charm him, knock him up. They grab the kill there. He doesn't have that much armor. He went for the magic resistance build we were talking about, and Humpty escapes, and that's enough for this to be like, okay, we're going to go bottom side. And then what happens is, like you said, T1 expects Fred Brion is resetting, and they're going to hope to realm warp for the contest. That's a kind of greedy call from T1, honestly. They had Baron. They could have just forced the fight there. Didn't need to actually back, but they don't have Owner. So they don't have a smite. It's kind of an awkward moment, and Fred Brion just do not hesitate. They're like, well, this is the one way we could win this game. Might as well try, and T1 don't show up.
Yeah, that must have been it, as I felt like even the 4 of T1 were going to be enough, but they decide not to go for it, trying to wait it out, as now Elder against Baron.
Just going to try to knock them away for this turret. It's bounties coming through.
It's a couple of them. That's the bounty as well. Now, this Elder, it's not the longest. They're also up against 4 Drakes still the Mountain Soul. The Baron power play is not much of a power play, though, because they're down 1,300 after the entire circus that we did just have. 1,000 gold in bounties actually collected here as T1 pushing forward, but they do not know. The follow-up is coming in, and Owner is left to die again. Not much they could do about that one. The Elder, as you mentioned, 30 seconds still. It is just one kill, though.
It's wild how many times. Now, honestly, 3 of these 4 times that Owner has died has just been Fred Brion ready to punish him because he's been kind of greedy. And another time he is punished. Humpty.
Okay.
Trying to bait him in.
Yeah, the red buff taken as Zeus is a monster, but so is Morgan doing a lot of damage here with this Elder. Only 8 seconds on it, though. Trying to get some value out of this Elder Drake. Not the cleanest fight. They will trade the Poppy for the Nautilus as the saddest golf claps I've ever heard after that play.
I mean, the T1
lose the Baron now, or rather the Elder Drake after that.
The T1 side of the arena is pretty silent right now because this is a game that was basically theirs, and out of just one call to back there, then a little bit of an overextension here is, a little bit greedy from Guma, and Owner's the one who does end up getting caught here. Like, it could have been either of them. It's him. I don't want to blame him more than Guma because he could have been the one. Then this ends up being a ton of barrel damage, like you said, from Zaya, so it's not the cleanest fight here for Fred Brion, but they push this to the last second of their Elder buff. They take this advantage and they're like, nope, not going to back, not going to reset, going to just try to force this fight over and over again no matter what. And now, like, T1, they have somewhat of a magic damage problem here. Like, Faker is about to get his death cap, but the damage is really all on Guma. And because of the itemization against the Rise here from Owner in particular, now he's got his GA, so it's going to be a lot better for him. But otherwise has been picked a lot, and it's still a winnable game here for Fred Brion.
Yeah,
like,
suddenly.
They have control of the map, and Sorelda's is done for Henna, so he's actually doing quite a lot. He's hit level 16. His ultimate is going to be fully upgraded here. Like, winnable.
They need Owner, T1. They need Owner to just stick with the team. You don't need to make the highlight play. You're actually not the guy that needs to make the plays anymore. We're here 35 minutes, 34 minutes into the game. You have Mountain Soul. Just chill out. You've got a GP who has full build crit GP, and you have a almost full build Aphelios. Just chill out. If you find an angle for a kick, maybe go for it. Don't go for anything too aggressive. Stay alive so your team has smite. And honestly, should be fine.
Yeah, I think the two best the 2 best kick targets for him are the Rakan and the Poppy. And those are the 2, and maybe the Gnar, if he's hard engaging. But otherwise, just let the T1 comp speak for itself. It has the barrel setups, it has Cannon Barrage, Zaya's low range, Rise is low range. They have to come to you. Let them use Faker's taunt, use the Galio that you've drafted here to its full potential, and just try to play around range.
And Henna's been doing a good job of,
he's 4-0-2.
Yeah, he's actually, making those feathers really work. He's setting up those angles, as we were talking about. The geometry of this lethality Zaya is really nice. And he's been really good at setting up those fights and playing against the aggression of T1.
Serpent's Fang has gotten so much value, too, against this Mountain Soul. And it's just repeatedly being a problem here for T1 as mean, we're just K-ramming here like
now as well. I mean, he's actually beginning to do some real damage just with the feathers, as this lethality Xayah will do.
And like the wave clear is insane here for Fred Brion as well. We're just K-ramming right now, but Fred Brion are happy to do that. They're closer to the Elder. It spawns in 30. This time T1 will actually fight for it, but there are so many tools here for Fred Brion. If they have the choke point controlled, the Xayah, the Rakan, how do you approach this as T1? If Faker can't ult onto anybody, can't get over that gap, he's just going to be a sitting duck. Hasdonia's, of course. I cannot believe how close this game has become.
It really has. And it is difficult now to engage onto the Fred Brion comp. They're kind of hoping that Fred Brion are the ones to make the play, looking to chip away at the structure, as here they do, and that's the damage. That's all you gotta do. Just sit, wait for someone to approach you, land your CC, and let Zeus and Guma do the damage.
Yeah,
they
this
do
is
exactly
a death ball.
that.
It's a death ball comp, and unfortunately for Delight, he doesn't hit his stopwatch here. Doesn't survive, and that should be the Elder going over to T1. They can just pull it back.
Humpty over the wall. The damage just stops. The steadfast presence there. He flashes out, stops that one, but they're trying to take the fight. RT1 owner going deep here onto the Xayah, but he can't quite get the damage down. They finally get into that back as now Zeus is there too. And that will be the triple kill for our top laner from T1. They finally are able to break through the iron wall that was Fred Brion, and now that might just be the game.
Yeah, if Humpty has ult there, maybe there's an angle. If they could turn this into a 4v3, but it's not enough. There's no Rakan in this fight, and without him, it's just not a great angle to turn. 30 seconds on Hannah, 40 on Lava. There is no way you were going to defend this, Morgan and Delight. Delight's ult is coming up, but they could just walk at it, and then once the charms wear off, just be happy to end the game.
Nice try. Okay, well,
like I said.
Nice try. Good effort, I suppose. Yep, Morgan gonna be the last one here on the Mega Gnar duty, but I suppose he'll get a kill onto Faker. That's about it. Umpty, not enough damage to clear any of this. As T1 going to be playing with their food here a little bit. They finally take down the Nexus and finally take the series 2-1.
And not one player on T1 looks happy after this win. It was a very hard-fought series against a 1-10 team. And it's the second time that T1 are tested against a weaker East Side bracket team tonight. Well, they are trying so desperately to contest for first place with Gen G. And it's only close because they beat Gen G themselves. But they have struggled now twice in a row against opponents that we almost wrote off. Yeah, first time Kwangdong won the series, but we were like, oh, but T1 got caught off by the Seraphine. Second time, it's a little bit weak. Now against Fred Brion played a phenomenal macro game, and they came back in this game off of Owner making some very critical mistakes. And for a moment there, it looked like T1 thrown this series away. They might have lost their second one. They come back strong. They play to their win conditions, like you said, play it slow, play around the Galio. They finally did, but the fact that this was so close, I think, for a team that demands such high standards, a team that is in second place in the LCK and will lost you or put them an extra game series behind Gen G. This is not a result you're going to be happy with. You could see it on the players' faces. It's a win, but it sure doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it's not that ceremony win. You know, it's not Pioshik from yesterday with the victory over Damwon, doing the Lee Sin headset maneuver. It's just, okay, we came in, we won the series. We dropped a game, unfortunately, back to the drawing board. They do get the win under their belt. I think for Fred Brion, you know, props to them fighting through a grueling 3-game series. Obviously, many mistakes that we did point out over the course of this one, but they really gave T1 a run for their money. Definitely surprising a lot of us, which was very nice to see. So props to them. At the end of the day, T1, obviously the better team. They are able to get the game done. But as you mentioned, we want to see T1